Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode here at the Damage Report. Not just any episode though, today is a Friday, which means we're gonna throw away some garbage. We're also gonna welcome back 2 weeks running. This thing's becoming almost like a pattern, Brett Erlich. How's it going, Brett?
You know, it's fine. That's it.
I thought you were like building up to something there.
I thought I had another thought, but I did not have another thought.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the last sound I made implied there was more.
Yeah,
all of that was baked in there. And then I ran out of things to say.
You know, and as we're launching this, you know what? Friday shows are supposed to be a mess. As we're launching this, I think we lost our producer. Like literally, as we're launching this. But that's okay, because while we might not have Sophie, what we do have is the news. Basically like 90 minutes of it actually. So we're gonna be starting off taking stock at the situation with COVID. You know how like they're rebooting everything, Brett? Yeah. I think they're gonna do another season of the pandemic actually. I think they're working on it.
Hold. What? Is there a dog in the studio?
There's two.
I rest my case. Continue.
I mean, okay. Well,
Busted. Which dogs are with you today in the studio so that the people
both of my dogs
might have a goal of dogs to see by the end of the show?
I've been telling you that I'm taking care of them.
Yes, I just mean like what dogs that can you know, there was a time when you were at home and the dogs would make it into frame. Just because you're in the studio, the dogs can't make it into frame.
We'll work towards that during a social break or anything or something. But we do have Sophie back. Okay, good. So maybe we'll do that at some point. We'll do an appearance or something like that. But anyway, thank you everybody for being here. We got a lot of news that we got to get to through the course of this thing. We're gonna be starting off, as I said, with an update on COVID, then moving into a couple different related corruption cases having to do with both tax law as well as some of what's going to affect the infrastructure negotiations in the near future, and a lot of other news besides. And you're definitely gonna want to stick around for the rest of the end of the show, because we will be doing our garbage people of the week. I know some people have been having a little bit of problems getting the poll to load on the community page, but it should be available. Maybe try desktop. A lot of you have voted, and can't wait to see what the result of that is. With that, Brett, are you ready to do some news?
Let's tear into it.
Let's do it. Okay, everything seems to be going smoothly. Okay. Here in LA and unfortunately around the country, COVID is making a comeback, and the cases here have been pretty rough. When we, as a county, got rid of basically most of our lockdown, we didn't have to wear masks indoors and stuff like that. Cases were down to about 150 per day. Well, in the most recent reporting, they're back up above 1,500, increasing tenfold from just a month or so ago. The highest number seen since early March. Hospitalizations have also jumped up to 452, doubling since the reopening about a month ago. And thanks to this, the mask mandate is going to be resumed. So after a month off, which wasn't even long enough for me to stop wearing mine in places like the gym and everything, starting tomorrow night, Brett, the masks are coming back. And we know that the vast majority of all of you watching this don't live in LA. We're gonna broaden the scope in just a little bit, but the rise in COVID cases has not spared even where we're filming from. So Brett, what do you make of this?
This is why I never once wore a mask, and why I never, if there was a de-vaccination plan, I'd back that thing up. But no, this is what a lot of people were scared might happen in a very what seemed like an irrational fear way, that it would just somehow come back in that moment where we all had the feeling at the end of the movie where we were on the other side of it, and Jason in Friday the 13th was officially slain. And is it coming back for one last scare at the end of the movie to end the one-off, or is this going to be like Friday the 13th, where every time we think they have come to a close on the franchise, it just keeps coming back with more and more horrifying sequels? That similar to the arc of that, sometimes they'll come back with one that is compelling, but more often than not, they're just absolutely demoralizing But the difference between this and a Friday the 13th movie is this one is very, very real and actually very, very deadly. But the campy jokes along the way are still happening nonstop from people at Fox News.
That is true. Yeah, it's like that point where you grab something off the desk and you hit the killer and it knocks him down, and rather than hitting him 40 or 50 more times, you just run away. Except in this analogy, you only hit him the one time because you've been convinced that hitting him more makes you sheeple or whatever. And so we've left it out there to return. And so we're seeing that. That said, we do have the vaccine now. And so that you might think, well, I've been hearing about people who are still getting sick, even though they had the vaccine, they still got COVID. Okay, that is true. And not a surprise, because we've been making clear from the very beginning that it does not give you perfect immunity. But what it does do is make it far less likely for you to get it. And if you do, you're far less likely to get a serious case, which is being reflected even here in LA County. Yesterday, Michael Short tweeted, of the 398 COVID patients hospitalized in LA County, 0 were vaccinated. Which means that, yes, you can still get sick. That is totally true, but it is gonna lower your odds. And if you do get sick, you're unlikely to end up in the hospital or killed as a result of it. And this is reflective of what we saw, I believe, in Maryland like a week ago. They had a good number of people who still died, unfortunately, and like more than 99, I think it was 99.7% weren't vaccinated. So the numbers are going back up. Some of those people getting COVID have been vaccinated, but you can still largely protect yourself if you get the shot and if you get both, if you haven't already.
Yeah. And the most frustrating thing, I'm gonna keep going with the metaphor for a bad horror movie, is it's so many parts of this are predictable and so many of them are infuriating. Like a lot of us looking at people who aren't vaccinated are basically the ones watching someone go into the dark basement, and we're like, don't go in the basement. It's very dangerous there. Everyone around you has told you if you go into the basement, it's going to be terrible. And that's what's frustrating. And then the other part that's wildly predictable and sad is, even though those stats are out there, you're gonna have people like Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham on their shows, while they'll take very strong positions that if you question them, you get shot down as a naysayer and a fool. They'll ignore those very real facts that vaccinated people are not being hospitalized, not dying, in relation to the number of people who are unvaccinated, who are suffering the same fate they've been suffering since the beginning of the pandemic before we had the vaccinations. They're going to say, I'm just asking questions. Is it bad to ask questions like something that I'm gonna ask, which is not really a question, but essentially rephrasing the statement, don't get vaccinated, let me pet your fragile ego that you don't like facts, and this is a safe space for you to avoid them and still feel like you're scoring some huge rhetorical win because Tucker's speech and debate classes taught him exactly how to be wildly infuriating.
Yeah, and people in the pre-show were requesting your Tucker Carlson impression. I feel like we got a little bit of it right there. Maybe we'll get some more later on, actually. Yeah, and that denial of the need to get the vaccine continues. We're actually gonna touch base with that in just a sec. But first, if there's another wave of COVID, what is it gonna look like? How bad could it get? The country obviously is different. Between 40 and 50% of the country is now fully vaccinated. A disproportionately higher amount of those who were older and most susceptible to severe cases of COVID as well as death are vaccinated at even higher rates. That said, national forecasts being published by the CDC imply that this could still be fairly devastating. They show that by August 7th, they predict, and it's a wide range, between 54,000 and 383,000 new COVID cases during the week ending August 7th. So look, they can't be particularly specific. That's a range of about 6 times from the low end to the high end, but that would be maybe 10,000 cases a day or less, all the way up to 60 or 70. And in a country that is more than 50% vaccinated at this point, that could be devastating. They're predicting, by the way, 800 to 3,900 new deaths will be reported on that same week, potentially getting us all the way up to 619,000 total deaths. And there's a big range because it's still partially within our control. We can change our behaviors. We can resume social distancing or wearing masks. People who between now and then might not be likely to get vaccinated could change that decision and could vaccinate. So we as a country get to decide how bad it's going to be. We could have had it be far better than even the best case scenario there being presumed by the CDC. We've chosen not to do that, regrettably, but we could make it better than the worst case scenario. And I hope that between now and then that might actually happen.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
And by the way, in terms of, like over the past couple of weeks, a lot of media has been talking about the Delta variant, and Fox and right wingers hate it. Like we talked about, Marjorie Greene literally tweeted, "Nobody cares about the Delta variant." So she doesn't want to talk about because she has a bad position on it. It's going to result in people dying and doesn't like that being pointed out. But when you talk about it, it turns out it can have a good result. According to the White House COVID-19 response coordinator, vaccination rates in the 4 states that have accounted for more than 40% of all the cases in the past week have been rising. Actually 5 states. So Arkansas, Florida, Louisiana, Missouri, and Nevada have all had a higher rate of people getting vaccinated than the national average over the past week. And that is because the cases have been rising fastest in those states. The media is talking about it. People are being reminded of how serious this is. And so thankfully vaccinations are going up too. Is that gonna be enough? We'll have to see. I mean, in Florida's had 1 in 5 of all COVID cases in the country over the past week. So I really hope that they're vaccinating a lot of people.
But they're not. And in the meantime, I think you covered this, the governor is selling "Don't Fauci My Florida" merchandise. And you know what? Here's the takeaway for people observing politics and wondering, like, what do I care about? What is the thing about politics? And there's many themes and many things you should know about it. But one of them is frequently stuff like this happens where there's a stat out here, someone pulls it favorably. There's a stat out there, people warp it and use a contradicting stat out of context. This happens all the time, but very infrequently does that really have any effect on people's actual lives, specifically the ones with strong opinions about it. But in this case, with people and COVID that get suckered into this weird partisan game when really it just needs to be about the science and the numbers. In one of those rare situations in a generally well-off country, it could be something about life and death. And there was someone who went on CNN to talk about how Fox's coverage, she watched Fox's coverage of COVID, and her dad followed it and died.
Yeah, so that was the woman whose story was profiled actually at the DNC last year. And she doesn't want to see it happen to more families. On the pre-show, we were talking about a woman whose 13-year-old has been on a ventilator for 12 days. And she said, "I thought it was just like the flu. I didn't think it was serious." That's now. She just like 2 weeks ago thought it was still like the flu. You don't get that a year into a pandemic without a massive, powerful media machine going out of its way to manipulate people.
And Mike Gonzalez in the chat is saying sue Fox, but people have sued Fox for their coverage, and their actual defense against the lawsuits, particularly the people when you think Fox, you go to, their defense is that it's entertainment, that it's not news in a court of law. And they're allowed to get away with it. And there's warnings on all kinds of boxes that are like, don't put this rat poison in your mouth. Like that is what it says on Ray. Don't spray bug spray up your nose and breathe deep. Something that should be pretty obvious. Caution, your coffee that is hot is hot. There's nothing on Fox News that says caution. We in a court of law say this is total bullcrap. And maybe there should be. The same way that on weekends when they run infomercials on these same networks. It's like, these do not represent the views of Fox News. Maybe they should have that before Tucker, where it's like, this is just a dramatization.
Yeah, instead it's sort of implicit. He says, the NSA is trying to destroy my show, and the rest of Fox is like, anyway. So it clearly doesn't represent the rest of Fox. They just don't want to make that explicit. And how frustrating is it? So you referenced the court case where they point out he's just doing hyperbole and exaggeration for fun. So how many times do you think you've probably referenced that or made a reference to the fact that they did that about Tucker Carlson?
A lot, John. I only have like 4 bits.
No, that's true. I'm not criticizing you. I have 2. And it doesn't matter somehow. Like their actual defense of him being, you can't trust what he says, hasn't hurt his ratings at all, as far as we can tell anyway.
Say it over and over again. That's the thing, because if you turn on those very same shows, they say it over and over and over again, to the point where there's a story I saw recently covered by a local news outlet where they were having a school board meeting about, I don't even remember what it was, a school board meeting about something random. And the entire brigade of parents showed up shouting that they don't want critical race theory in that school. And the school board supervisor is like, we don't.
Yep.
I wasn't gonna talk about that. We were gonna talk about like lunches or something completely unrelated. Yeah. And they showed up screaming. And when the people who are running the school board meeting are laughing because they're like, this is wildly unprovoked. They say, oh, you're laughing because you think that America's a bad country? No, it's because the people on Fox Entertainment News go and repeat the same BS distractionary tactic, talking point culture war nonsense over and over again. So fight fire with fire. Go, open up a new front on try to flank them by just saying, hey, this in a court of law, it's entertainment. So I can't really engage with it because he said he's not telling the truth.
Yeah. Well, let's go to the others that aren't telling the truth just briefly. One might hope as we gear up for another COVID wave that Fox would cool it a little bit on the trying to get people to not accept the one thing that could potentially save the lives of themselves and their family members. But unfortunately not. Over the past 2 weeks or so, and this is according to a study done by Media Matters, Fox News aired 129 segments about coronavirus vaccines. Of those, the majority, 57%, included claims that either undermined or downplayed the effort to get people to immunize themselves. 45% included claims suggesting that the vaccination drive is coercive or that it represents government overreach. 37% of segments included claims suggesting that vaccines are unnecessary or that they themselves might be dangerous. And Fox and Friends, which as we're filming this today, Ducey's getting a little bit of credit because he said it could save your life, which is good. They aired the most vaccine segments during that 2-week period, with more than half featuring claims undermining or downplaying the entire effort. But while they might have the most, it is universal. All of Fox's weekday evening opinion shows, Fox News, Primetime, Tucker Carlson, Hannity, the Ingram Angle, included claims that undermined or downplayed coronavirus vaccines in those segments. And that is, you cannot watch it without coming away with the idea that getting the vaccine makes you a sheep or could potentially kill you, or there's something questionable or something shady. Tucker Carlson doesn't have the conspiracy theorist balls to just say, don't take it, because he's worried. But he will spend months and months and months trying to convince you without saying it that you shouldn't take the vaccine. And he might be the worst. I think that he is the worst on there, but they're all basically doing at this point. The right-wing media is not backing down as we potentially enter into another wave.
Yep, that is absolutely correct. And it's wildly frustrating. It's almost as bad as that visual that you gave me of Tucker Carlson not having any balls. It's just what? It's like a worn out bagpipe bag, just sitting in the corner. Like you barely see any plaid. There's plaid on it, but there's like, it's mostly just like whatever tanned hide haggis.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to this video
leftovers
because I can't take any more of this.
in his.
I can't. Stop it. It's like a deflated football. Anyway.
Yep.
Okay. How?
It's like a parachute.
Stop
you know
it.
when you were a kid and all the kids would hold the outside of the parachute and go like this, and you're like, oh my God, there's so much fabric.
It's like you're fluffing the blanket.
Yeah.
And then you drop it and there's no bed. It just hits the ground.
Yeah.
Stop. Okay.
It's like it's strangely like a soccer goal. Netted. A lot of net. Sorry, Mama Misa, for what I did to you. John, can you move your screen? Weird, this isn't in the video. Can you move your computer to the right a little bit? It's most of the screen right now.
I already moved that more.
There we go.
Did it move back somehow?
There you go.
Anyway, really fast. How petty can the right's attempt to get people not to take the vaccine be? Well, I think we've reached peak petty, and I'm not gonna play the video because nobody should have to watch OAN. But OAN had a segment accusing Olivia Rodrigo as being a quote celebrity Muppet pawn because she went to the White House and suggested that people get the vaccine. So this young celebrity who's probably like, I don't know, probably like overjoyed to go to the White House and meet the president and be part of trying to save people's lives. She's a celebrity Muppet pawn. Well, is she a puppet or is she a pawn? Because those are different things. Like choose a metaphor at this point, God.
I will never forgive Olivia Rodrigo for what she did. Here's the issue. Frequently, when someone goes out there and okay, let's back up to the Trump administration. When people went to visit or not visit Trump at the White House, personally, I was like, I don't care. When he gave people McDonald's, I thought that was kind of funny. But at the same time, he's doing terrible, terrible things. Now,
yeah.
But they got mad at folks for talking trash on sports teams for going to the White House when there was a very aggressively, obviously polemic, hateful attack on multiple fronts coming from the White House. Yeah. Olivia Rodrigo is like, don't get sick, get the vaccine. And it's never, let's shut these countries down. It's never, you have to get the vaccine. It's people generally suggesting that this vaccine, which even in a resurgence, if you are to get the disease again, when people are going to the hospital and dying, none of them that got sick and went to the hospital and died were vaccinated. I think Olivia Rodrigo is on some pretty solid ground. And the only person that is a celebrity wannabe puppet is literally everyone at OANN who just crawled out of the gutter of Fox News rejects and old-timey normal news has-beens to find a camera with lights behind it that will point at them and are saying whatever it takes. And this is another theme that everyone needs to lock onto. The people at OANN, the guy who who dodged out of the camera interview when Mike Lindell was talking about, hacked voter machines. And Tucker Carlson, the leader of all of them. That's why he's so successful at Fox News. That's why OANN is becoming so successful and why Newsmax and everybody else is chasing them. It's because everyone affiliated with them just wants to be on TV so bad, and in many cases has lost their job in it before and never wants it to happen again. When Tucker Carlson was rightly upbraided and humiliated by Jon Stewart on Crossfire, and it cost him and caused the death of his entire genre. When he was done after MSNBC had it with him, he went back into his Osama bin Laden type cave with his plaid shirts and his pleated shorts and said never again. And like a terrorist, started plotting his revenge to ruin everything about news and America. And he is executing his news terrorism to this day and will continue to do it until someone gets better than him at it.
I don't disagree with any of that. That was pretty good. Hey, look, Brett's doing the show again. Look how good it is when he's not trying to derail me.
But anyway, shout out to Are you moving on?
No. But really fast, I want to, I want to show you a little bit of the video of her at the White House because she's probably done. She's about to be canceled for this because she's a celebrity Muppet pawn. She, like as you said, she's just trying to get people to not be sick. And how is she doing it? Like, I don't know. This is apparently the propaganda. You tell me how offensive this should be to the youth of America.
Thank you, Dr. Fauci, for all your hard work. We appreciate your intelligence, honest, bravery, compassion. We love you. Well, that's very nice to say that.
Do you know what Man Crush Monday means?
No idea.
Tell them what that means.
Man Crush Monday is just like on Mondays, people will like post a picture of their boyfriends and they'll be like, oh, Man Crush Monday, this is why I love you. So it's a big compliment.
All right, well, whatever it takes. If Man Crush Monday makes you get vaccinated, go for it.
How dare she, Brett? And how dare he? Those two Muppet pawn. I mean, he kind of looks like he could be a Muppet actually a little bit, but yeah, they're just trying to get people to not be sick. They don't want people to be on ventilators and they don't want them to die. Okay, yeah. Let her do that. Let her have her little moment or whatever.
Yeah, and the big bit of bait they're trying to get everybody to bite onto is this idea that you need to back one person till the end of time in every single story and hate one person until the end of time in every single story. Like, Dr. Fauci's an immunologist. He's an expert immunologist. Am I going to wage a war on his behalf? Am I going to get a Fauci tattoo on my bag? No, I'm just going to listen to what he has to say.
Yeah, but you wouldn't do it. Jordan might.
Yeah, Jordan, Jordan, Fauci will be drinking the half pot tattoo that he got from Fortnite.
That? It's vaccine. Anyway.
But I do have Fauci out. I think, never mind. I was gonna call back to Tucker Carlson. Anyways, but that's the thing is, don't take the bait. That's what it is. That's what Tucker tried to do to Ken Klippenstein. He tried to say Ken Klippenstein by not saying that I, Tucker Carlson, am glorious is in the back pocket of the NSA. That's just not true, and it can't be true. And it makes everybody who's watching your show, it loves you. It proves that as Tucker Carlson is talking to them like they're kids, seated around a campfire, he thinks that they're children. He thinks that they're stupid, and he's stupid.
I also agree. Maybe we'll return to that. Okay, we're gonna go to the break before Sophie literally just cuts the stream. So apologies, the longest A block ever. Lots more news to come, maybe, if there's time after this. Hey, we got to a lot of stuff there. Hey everybody, how's it going? Let's see what's going on out there in the audience. Let's see. Oh no. Robin, the Beach Dragon says, my husband refuses to get vaccinated. He told me 100,000 people have died from the vaccine worldwide. I have no idea where he gets this from. Yeah, I don't know the specific person. I know what machine he gets it from though.
Jordan's in the chat. He goes, why don't you think I have one yet?
I did see Jordan. I responded to Jordan in the chat. Yeah, it's like, he's there. By the way, everybody, yesterday I was on Deep Dive. I don't want to say the name of the segment. You guys have designed it in a way that I don't want to do the pitch for it, but it was a lot of fun. You should definitely go check it out. It's saved on the channel, right? They can watch it after the fact.
Subs can go watch VODs.
Awesome. We'll become a sub, watch the VOD.
And
we had a lot of
members
fun.
TYT members get the uploads of it, so you can watch the VODs too.
That's true. Over on YouTube, Shanna Mack became a tier 1 member. Thank you for that. G. George, Brian Hughes, and Heather Smith all became tier 2 members. Thank you so much for that. You get access to our weekly actually Tiffany Black just did too. You get access to our weekly top 10 list this week. Francesca and I did our top 10 things we would do on our last day on this earth. Hers involved seals. You gotta watch to find out more. It was a lot of fun. Scissazap says, this week, Western Europe hit by flood, 120 dead and thousands are missing. COVID raises its ugly head again throughout the world while anti-vax narrative gets stronger. The end is near. Yeah, it's rough times. I think there was like 1 or 2 people who probably half sarcastically were like, aren't you gonna change the name of the show once Trump is gone? And I thought, I don't think that's gonna be necessary. Anyway, Kumi, Afaraka says, from the Anaconda Dragon, thank you, John and Brett, for your open and honest commentary. Please keep up the excellent work. Thank you so much. Strayek says, random fact, the lady that sued McDonald's over hot coffee had a real case since multiple people and even employees complained about it. She only wanted money for medical fees, but they refused. I did not know that, that's interesting. Franklin Sharpslicer had a super chat, a big one that I don't see here. Maybe we can go back into the thing and see if we can get that. It was from earlier in the show, but Franklin also said, if Tucker made a testament, hand upon his balls, just like in ancient times, what he said is false. Would his best defense, would he ever err? Golly Moses, there's just nothing there.
That's amazing, God bless. I do wanna give a shout out before we run out of time to Vitengale for the raid and the host, and then also Blink Bloop Ben, whose show is after, I think that's Ben. Thanks for the raid and the host, and his show is on after Indisputable today. So Galaxy Brain premieres, and thanks to everybody who watched Ray Actions with Ray Vana yesterday. These shows are awesome.
Exactly, exciting to see the Twitch programming lineup just blowing up. It's pretty awesome. Okay, let's see. Oh, there we go. Thank you for finding that. We don't have much time, but thank you. So Franklin earlier had said in a very generous super chat says, Will Rogers, the trouble with practical jokes is that very often they get elected. Others like Margarine and Bobert are like disease, mouths open and we get infected. Seems like they should microdose to some degree, or mayhaps they did and all OD'd. 2 poems in one day, Franklin. Thank you for that. We really do appreciate that and your support as always. Over in Twitch, Z Huddle gifted a tier 1 sub. Mother effing Woman Dragon did as well. Thank you to both of you. Alien Sock Puppet just hit 10 months as a subscriber. Says came for John and Brett, stayed for Franny, JR, and a sea of dragons. Thank you for that. That's very nice of you. Much more news to come after this. Probably a short block too, actually. Wow. Welcome back, everyone. Let's see. Before we jump back into things, I did want to let you know that as always, you can expect that after the show, there's a lot of programming coming. Indisputable coming up right after the show today. Galaxy Brain, as we were talking about in the break, coming up right after that. And then the Young Turks Friday Power Panel. You got Anna and Jank and Adrian in the first hour, Jank, Jackson White, and Bridget Todd in the second hour. So a lot to come. And then of course, Common Room. Friday is basically our biggest day. With that, Brett, you ready to jump back into things?
Sure, why not?
Okay, let's do it.
And communism is a failed system, universally failed system. And I don't see socialism as a very useful substitute, but that's another story.
Okay, so that's a little tangent that Biden went on during a talk about Cuba and the possibility of aid, the possibility of the sanctions being removed, which so far he doesn't look to have any interest in whatsoever. But he decided that he would turn it into something that might, he thinks, benefit him. Attacking communism, attacking socialism. And why not? I mean, after all, he gets attacked for being a socialist, for being a communist, being part of this far left radical movement. It's not true remotely, but he does get attacked that way. So he's like basically like putting out the football. Will attacking communism and socialism get the right to give him some credit? Have you been in this country long? Here's what Jesse Waters had to say.
No professor in the country can say that. So I give Kim kudos for that, but he doesn't act like it's a failed system because he keeps trying to take our guns, our health care, and our freedom of speech. So give him a C- on that.
He gave you health care, but the Obama administration, because you can afford
he took it away from a lot of people, and now he's trying to take over the private system with the public option.
20 million.
I don't want government health care. Okay,
you can afford not to.
No one else wants government health care.
Yeah, a lot of millions want it.
Yeah, but
no one wants government health care. It's terrible. Everybody knows it. So, also, I was surprised that we were able to.
That's a great show. I'm glad
that
it's so popular.
He just did a Trump impression. And that is another key theme to be on the lookout for. This is how fascism, period. What you do at the top, and you see it bubble out. And every time a country has devolved into fascism, or any ism for that matter, in its rawest form, is that you have some weird, crazy, dynamic, charismatic psychopath in charge. And they say weird, crazy, charismatic, psychopathic things. And it emboldens weak people susceptible, to the Jedi mind trick to just repeat them whenever they get in a position where they feel like they're losing. They're like, no. And it's the same with religion, to be honest. Like, you invoke this larger power that gives you power. And it's like a shot of adrenaline. And that's exactly what happened to the cornered Jesse Waters, who is wrong. Wildly wrong. It is very popular. That's one aspect of what I have to say. I don't know. I kind of interrupted your point.
No, that's totally okay, and that's a very important part of it. I liked your point. Yeah, you see it start to filter down, and it empowers people. It empowers the random people we see in videos every day, feeling like, oh, you're filming me? You think I'm not gonna be racist just because you're filming me? Like, everyone I look up to is crazy racist. Why wouldn't I? It empowers them, and it empowers people like this. Now, some of them might be a little bit more sophisticated in it, like Tucker Carlson, I think has felt emboldened to double down on xenophobia, white nationalism, and all of that. Jesse Waters is one of the dimmer, weaker ones, so his is a little bit more ham-fisted. But I think you're totally right, he's just doing that. And by the way, like, it's this weird form of strength that only the right thinks is strength. When a woman is making a factual point to you and you just refuse to look at her and just try to talk over her, like she's talking right here and you won't look her in the eye, they see that as strength. I cannot help but see that as incredible weakness, an inability to even look the person in the eye that is making a point that you can't rebut, so you just talk over her. And he'll say that he was joking or whatever. Yeah, it's funny, unfactual or like, I don't know, the whole thing just reeks of weakness to me, but I think you're totally right. The other point I want to make though is, like, how does Biden not get that this is going to happen? Like, continue the Trump border policies. They say that you've given them open borders, like it doesn't matter. Attack communism, attack socialism, they'll just say, no, you're still doing it. Like later that night, and thanks to Nikki Ramirez for posting this, Laura Ingraham had the Meet President Bernie Biden thing where she melded their face. And Ben Shapiro this morning said that it's just Bernie Sanders, like he ripped Biden's face off and now he's wearing it.
Yeah.
Like, which is not just insane. It also, like, how do you not understand the actual political dynamics of the Democratic Party? And you can say, I'm scared that the leftists will take over, but to say that they already have is just so unfactual. It's not reflective of what we're actually seeing. And they're being stupid, it's grift. Biden continually doing it. Like reaching out to the Republicans in the Senate, reaching out rhetorically to the right. He's never gonna get an inch for it, but he keeps on doing it.
Yeah, it's very true. Support for government-backed healthcare, Medicare for all, wildly popular.
You wanna see a poll?
Yes.
Okay, so the KFF had a 53% support for Medicare for all in October 2020. You can see here, this is a breakdown where you can see it across different parties, but support for government involvement in the insurance industry increased 4 points from 2019 to 2020, 6 points for just a single national government program in that time period. People who believe that the government shouldn't be involved in healthcare is at 6%. Okay, and that's not going up there too. Even some Republicans, like 34% of Republicans want the government involved. 15% just want a single payer healthcare. And it's obviously incredibly popular amongst Democrats and independents. This is up to 2020. Like maybe the experience of COVID has killed people's interest in it. I kind of feel like it's gonna be the opposite. But why actually respond to those points? Why try to make a case when you can just say it's not popular? I, a millionaire, don't want it, so clearly nobody does.
The idea that he is a millionaire runs counter to the idea that one earns money through their value, the ability, their ability to contribute to society. That is BS. The idea that people in America, that socialism is evil, people respond. A lot of people have been trained to respond negatively to the concept of socialism, but when you try to remove what are, I hate to break it to you, D-bag, socialist programs from America, people will fight tooth and nail. That's why they call Social Security the third rail. You want to get rid of socialism? Get rid of Social Security. Get rid of roads, get rid of bridges, get rid of anything that your tax dollars go to pay, because that's socialism, buddy. You want to get rid of the police? You want to get rid, and that's it. Jesse Waters wants to get rid of the police. What he said, get rid of socialist programs, get rid of anything that the government provides to people for their benefit and their social security, socially or security wise. Jesse Waters on Fox News just argued to abolish the police, abolish the fire department, abolish the military. That's what he's saying when he says he doesn't want socialist programs. He wants to get rid of Social Security. All those people who are watching Fox News, and that's why everything is a Medicare program and medical device commercial and some kind of pharmaceutical program. Dude, he wants to get rid of your Medicare, which is a socialist program. So Jesse Waters wants to take away everything that I would argue makes America great, and that his entire network argues makes America great on a daily basis. Jesse Waters is a nonsense, stupid person for that exact reason, because he doesn't realize when he's making an argument that's counter to every other argument he makes on a daily basis.
Yeah. I hope that I didn't preempt your garbage person, because it sounded like you were nominating.
No, you didn't.
There.
You didn't. And the other thing is, if you want to defend, no one should be defending private healthcare, period. Because in America, and you say this to everybody who comes up to you and is like, I love the private healthcare system. In America, we pay. So all you financial wizards out there, tell me if this makes sense to you. In America, we pay twice as much per person for healthcare. And we die sooner than people who get it for half freaking price, because they have that system of Medicare for everybody. Not only that, but they allow the government to collectively negotiate down drug prices as a whole, like frickin' Costco buyers or Trader Joe's booze purchasers at a giant scale, which should fit with your economic models, you doinks. But no, all this stuff that Tucker's like, I'm just asking questions. How do I get to the bottom of it? Where do we find out the answers? Answer me this. How much does your healthcare provider pay for medication? They don't tell you. You don't know. And how much does each line item cost? And how do you compare that to what it costs in other countries that are paying half as much? They won't tell you. It's all opaque. And is it opaque because the government? No, it's opaque because the private corporations that have a stranglehold on every aspect of it. That's the problem. That they won't tell you is a problem, much less answer it.
Brett, I just saw a super chat come in that you're gonna like. So You know what? Why don't we go to the break and read it? We got a couple more stories, a little bit of corruption for you coming up after this. George in the super chat says, Brett is the new George Carlin. Carry on.
I don't like George Carlin very much.
No, not really.
No, it's too memorized.
Oh yeah. Some of his later stuff that he would deliver really rapid fire, I didn't like. I liked the more conversational earlier stuff, but he's still obviously really good. I actually got to see him once in person before he, unfortunately died. And he was good. He's not my favorite.
I get it.
He's good.
And I love if I read Lenny Bruce has like half the stuff is, and same with Carlin. It's like most like the things you love about him, I love too, but I can never like get into that next level of Carlin. Lenny Bruce has some really good stuff about religion. And I do want to clarify an earlier statement. I don't mean that religion always works in a way where it empowers you to do terrible stuff. I think it works positively in many cases. That's what leadership does. You invoke something like that. Unfortunately, just like any ism, when it's presented in a pure, raw, uncompromising, non-progressive form, where the check on it is, does it hurt the people with less power? It gets bastardized and used the same way that fascism gets used, communism has gotten used, all of that.
You're sounding even more like Carlin now, honestly. Brooke said in the chat, translation, thanks for the super chat, love Brett.
That's true, thanks.
She's so much better than me.
She's so much better than me. She's so much better than me. That was a jerky comment. Sorry, I apologize.
Sure he understands. Tiger says, I posted in a forum last week on Reddit asking how to go about getting pandemic unemployment because I have severe asthma. They basically told me too late, pandemic's over. Surprise, you're wrong, Reddit. Yeah, exactly. Nicole Smith says, Fox News disclaimer for entertainment purposes only, to be posted before and after the show and on the ticker throughout. Yeah, I mean, to some extent on other news networks too, but it seems most aggressive on Fox. Raleigh Jones says, I'm dating a Jewish girl. She just learned Marjorie Greene's space laser quote. She laughed, quote, part the ocean once, suddenly we control the weather forever. I like that. I like that. Quantum Dragon says, happy Friday, John and Brett. Nerd question for you. Thoughts on Star Wars animated series? Have you ever watched any?
I keep, here's what people tell me. They're great, and I get right to there. First of all, I thought the Bad Batch. Every time I read it, I just read Bad Bitch.
It's like, well, Star Wars.
And then I'm like, oh, it's a Star Wars, the Bad Batch. I'm always tempted to, but I never pick it. So I haven't seen any.
Yeah, I haven't either, even though I really like Star Wars. I have watched a couple seasons of Clone Wars, and I really want to watch Rebels because there's one of my favorite actresses does voice on that. But
who is it?
It's watch and find out. Anyway, yeah, I haven't. I don't know why. I really like Star Wars, but it's the cartoon thing. It does hurt it. Like I love Mandalorian. I'm sure Bad Batch probably has some similarities. Anyway, Strike says, people need to realize the odds of the US becoming communist is as close to zero as it gets. You need a strong populist movement that's willing to fight and riot for rights. We don't have that. Yeah, and it just like if your definition of communism includes Joe Biden, what doesn't it include at that point? It's just so stupid, but you can make millions of dollars on Fox News by saying that. Ferret Queen says, John and Brett are younger versions of those two grumpy heckling Muppets in the balcony. MTG is a puppet from the original Land of Confusion video. I don't know that reference, but I do know the heckling Muppets.
Do you know their names?
Oh, I know it's like their old timey long names. What are they?
Statler and Waldorf, I believe.
I should have known Waldorf. Damn. Anyway, okay, with that, a little bit more news to close out the hour after this. People in the chat have said Statler and Waldorf. If you gave me like 5 pairs of names, I could have guessed it.
We were running out of time, so I didn't want to be like, it's a hotel chain, fancy hotel chain.
Yeah. Okay, we'll have more Muppet trivia after this. Who is the most famous celebrity Muppet pawn right now, for instance? We've already given you that one. Anyway, with that, why don't we jump back into, I think we can fit these last 2 stories in what remains. Joe Manchin is not having some of what's likely to be a part of the reconciliation infrastructure bill, but why? Why is he against the climate being a focus of it? Is it just ideology? Well, let's delve into it and see if we can find out what might be driving this man. He said on Wednesday, after Biden met with Senate Democrats, I know they have the climate portion in here and I'm concerned about that. Just like the whole climate portion, he's concerned. He says, because if they're eliminating fossils, and I'm finding out there's a lot of language in places they're eliminating fossils, which is very, very disturbing. Because if you're sticking your head in the sand and saying that fossil fuel has to be eliminated in America, and they want to get rid of it, and thinking that's going to clean up the global climate, it won't clean it up all. If anything, it would be worse. That's an interesting point. We'll return to that. But what he's referencing is that in the draft version of the reconciliation bill, Democrats want to meet Biden's climate change goals of 80% clean electricity and 50% economy-wide carbon emissions by 2030, as well as a number of other elements. So that to him is a deal breaker. That is putting your head in the sand, not ignoring climate change for some reason. And also getting to clean energy would make the global climate worse somehow. Okay, well, we're gonna get into what might really be influencing, but first, that's a couple of interesting claims, Brett. What do you think about it?
I mean, he makes money off of that. All kinds of ways to the end of time. Like everything about the fossil fuel supply chain, he makes money off of, whether it's personally or for his political survival. Period. Like that's it. End of sentence. And what's funny is everything about publicly financing some kind of green initiative will create jobs and create a system that folks will fight for just as hard as he's fighting for, but surrounding sustainable energy that will make us energy independent like he wants for years and years to come. A new generation, but he doesn't want that. which is a very conservative position to have. And rather than fighting for ways to accommodate all of this, he's fighting against it. Rather than fighting for something that will secure his people in the future, and in the meantime, as they transition to a more sustainable future, he's just doing the thing he does all the time, which is, rely on this image as a folksy, big-handed, coal miner, while owning the coal company.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so why don't we turn to that then?
And sending people into the mines.
Exactly, not him, notably. So of course he gets donations from Exxon and all that. Maybe we'll show a little bit of that video that Greenpeace was able to find, but it's actually worse than that, because while I think have been very clear in saying that if you get paid by these companies to have the government protect them, that seems kind of like a bribe. What if it wasn't just going to your campaign? That's sort of walled off. You can't like just spend that money freely. What if you're just being given the money? Like it's actually yours. Well, Manchin earns hundreds of thousands of dollars each year through coal sales to power plants that supply Edison Electric Institute member companies. His family company, Enersystems, is a contractor, and they sell coal. In his most recent financial disclosure, he reports that his non-public shares of Enersystems are worth between $1 million and $5 million, and sent him an income of $492,000. His total income from the company since he became a senator is more than $4.5 million. And we can and have conversations about whether $20,000 in campaign checks or $100,000 or $1 million over a few decades is enough to influence someone, to corrupt them. Why don't we have a conversation about whether $4.5 million that goes straight to you, that you can spend on literally anything you want, if that's enough to change someone's mind, to cause them to grind the Senate to a halt, to stop a country from dealing with climate change? I don't think that seems crazy. I don't think that seems too conspiratorial.
No, it's a combination of him flexing his political capital, benefiting off of his monetary capital. That's it. Mm-hmm. And he never burns through his political capital, because every time he does this, he like helps himself in front. It's tough because a lot of the time with Manchin, he ends up voting along with Democrats, except in this. And when it comes to the filibuster, abolishing the filibuster, he says he wants to protect the sanctity of the filibuster, and because it's an institution that protects Democrats. And I think there's a lot more credit that a relative of that argument deserves in politics, as gerrymandering is related to it, because it's just difficult for Democrats, specifically just Democrats, to get a majority, despite having the majority of votes go their way if everyone was allowed to vote. But it's very frustrating when this guy, Joe Manchin, goes out there and pretends that he's making that kind of an argument when he's not. He's just saying, listen, I want everything to stay exactly the way it is for me right now, because right now, until the end of my literal life, I will benefit from it by having power to not only stay in office, but also keep things the way they are, so I personally and my family personally benefits from it, while secretly catering to big moneyed interests that finance his campaign. Like that, and and they bragged about it. We have the audio. We know what it sounds like. We know what it looks like when that happens. They say we own the guy and he's in our pocket.
Yeah, now he's even getting money from Fox Corp. $1,500 from the PAC that represents Rupert Murdoch and his son. Isn't it amazing? Not surprising, but amazing. Yeah, I thought he would get donations someday. He would be put onto a board of like a coal company or something like that. The idea that he's making $500,000 a year, like I get it. I'm crazy. I don't know how things work, but I personally think, how is that legal? Like you're clearly being influenced by the money. I know we've just allowed it. We think it's okay. I personally don't think it should be acceptable. I would boot him out of the caucus over this clear conflict of interest during a time when they can potentially pass one of the most important pieces of legislation in our entire lives.
Your benefits package. Anyway, is this a crazy idea that your benefits package? That your benefits package, as you are, in office, should be like you should have some kind of financial situation that only benefits if the whole of society benefits? not just some kind of blind stock package, but also some kind of, it goes into a savings account that's pegged to the ways that people make money. Should it be tied to the median income? I don't know.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought up stock, because we've been talking about that, about how we need to have a conversation to convince people that them being able to own stock that they can influence is crazy. But this is, I think, way worse than that, because at least with that, they have to do something that then affects an industry that might affect a particular company whose stock price would then go up that they'd have to sell. This is just the guy won't let them ban coal because he sells it and makes money directly from that. How's that acceptable? That's insane that we allow that to continue.
And honestly, that's the kind of thing that if there's a lot of people that believe that. And all kinds of people in all kinds of nefarious and magnanimous ways are trying to court that voting block.
Yeah.
And doing really sketchy or smart, I don't know which, things to get it.
Yeah. And unfortunately right now he's effectively the president. Anyway, okay, we've only got like a minute and a half until the end of the block. No time to do another story. So let's see what's going on out there in the audience before we take the break at the end of the hour. Tiffany Black says, today's the day. Hi, John. Glad I checked and didn't spell your name like on Garfield. Hi, Brett. Thank you for helping me survive the years of, I can't say that on air, but it's not good years. You both, heart you both, but seriously, John, where did you get that shirt? Well, it's funny that you ask, actually, because it is Vaxxed Human Summer, and you can now get this at Shop TYT. So fun, cool design, colorful, shows people that you accept science and don't want to kill people. So that's cool.
After you told Jordan that you wanted to play Fortnite and then didn't, we played with Hot Girl Summer skins on Fortnite. And it was really fun.
There were Hot Girl Summer skins.
Well, they're not
Fortnite?
Actually that, but we picked the most Hot Girl Summer skins, and we did a bunch of dance moves. And they got this mini game where you can go into a spaceship and get gold weapons.
I've done that with you. It was fun. Anyway, I didn't say I could play last night, but hopefully soon. Maybe this weekend a little bit or something.
Great.
Okay. Okay. We only have 30 seconds. Riley Jones says Clone Wars and Rebels are epic. You can watch 3 at a time, and the arcs are like a movie, an OG movie, not prequel. By the way, I love Last Jedi too, so we're on the same page. Thank you, Riley Jones. I need the support in this particular area. I'm fine being alone in the politics, but in Last Jedi, I need you with me. Anyway, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Thank you to our linear audience for sticking with us. We've still got more news coming, including the reveal of the garbage people of the week. That's coming up online after this. Welcome back, everyone. Hello to YouTube and Twitch. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Penn Handel's Messiah, for subscribing for 12 months. Has made the year mark on Twitch. I was a little late to the Twitch train, but haven't looked back. Best platform, best people. Thank you. Thank you, Zakharov, for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Very nice of you. Shadow Wolf gifted 5 as well. Harpo DB gifted 1 too. Thank you to all of you. John Campbell Rees in the super chat says, you do realize that coal is going to run out and you'll have to transit to renewable energy, Senator Manchin. No, you are too corrupt to know that. Well, even if it has to happen, first of all, he'll be dead before that, but he wants to make as much money as he can along the way, I suppose. Anyway, with that, why don't we see how much we can get to eventually? Don't go anywhere because some garbage is going in this can. But first, this. Last October, Donald Trump got COVID. It was perhaps inevitable, but how bad was it? I mean, we watched the video. The dude looked pretty sick, but apparently it was even worse than that. This is one of the many revelations coming out of some of the upcoming political books, including by Michael Bender, a journalist for the Wall Street Journal, who had this to say about Trump's bout with COVID.
Do you have any reporting on how bad it got? I mean, did he fear that he was going to die? Did people in the White House fear that he was going to die?
Yes, all of the above. It was worse than we knew. It's worse than we know, and I'm sure it's worse than what even I have in this book. And there was no. The Trump White House was just not built in a way to do any kind of like high level, coordinate any kind of high level scheming to hide what happened. It was Trump. I mean, he wasn't really talking to even Meadows, his chief of staff, about what was happening, or his chief of operations. I'm not sure how much he consulted with the doctor on some of these things. So what that means is it leaves us with are a bunch of competing versions of when he tested positive.
Yeah.
I mean, I have multiple people, senior people, respectable people telling me that he tested positive before he went to Bedminster that day for a fundraiser.
It's funny, Brett. I had actually forgotten about that, about it turning out. Remember, there was all the doctors didn't want to confirm when he'd had different tests and everything because it seemed to imply that he had gotten tested, known he was positive, and then chosen to sit at a table unmasked with people who were paying crazy amounts of money to potentially get infected by the president with COVID. But apparently it was worse than it was indicated. It certainly looked bad. His breathing was something, but apparently it's pretty bad.
And that's it. And on it, first of all, hilarious. Like, I'm not above thinking that this is hilarious, that all the people, I guess I should start with, I understand that it's difficult and it's sad and the gravity of the situation where mortality is involved. Yes, blah, 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 caveat. But it's also freaking hilarious that all these people who have financial gain at stake and influence, whatever they ascribe value to, such as like influence, access, proximity to power, all that stuff, and power itself. They did everything to downplay the seriousness of the virus and encourage other people to go into harm's way, and that extended to their own risks. And all I'm saying is that's hilarious. Like, well, it's absolutely funny.
What you think? Why don't we skip to the third video, because we don't have that much time, unfortunately. But let's go to this third video where Michael Bender talks about the actual trip to Walter Reed. We'll see if we can get a chuckle out of Brett.
He was one of the resonant, I think, compelling scenes in the book on that end is when he gets to Walter Reed.
Yeah.
And he wants to keep up. The reason they get him to Walter Reed is they tell him, like, we can either go now when you can walk, or if we have to carry you out of here. Correct. Yeah. And there's an easy decision for Donald Trump. And really probably anyone. But so he's very, very sick. But he's putting on airs as best as he can to seem normal. And he carries his own bag to the hospital. As soon as he gets into the hospital, he's exhausted by the whole trip, drops the bag on the ground, and everybody around him took a step back. Wow. He had COVID, right? And so everyone's natural instinct was to take a step back.
Yeah.
And Mark Meadows has this sort of, screw it moment, leans forward, grabs his bag, and they walk into Walter Reed. And Trump told people later, he said to Meadows in front of other people, that's when I knew you were my guy.
Wow. Yeah. The loyalty of it. Now,
that's the level, right?
Yeah.
He was.
So sort of like I was talking with Max Burns yesterday about how Trump has taken up Ashley Babbitt as like this martyr, and he loves the idea that, there have been other people who've been willing to kill for him, but she was one of the first people willing to actually die for him. Mark Meadows being willing to expose himself to a fatal virus, that's what finally got Trump to like him. And the fact that Trump was exposing him to the virus potentially didn't really bother Trump, at least in this telling of it.
Yeah, and don't say Trump and exposing that close together, first of all. But yeah, that's all it is. And when we talk about it being a death cult, that's exactly what we're talking about. It's funny though, like a version of that story, a relative of that story is very touching. Where like your husband, wife, partner, grandmother, daughter, these are not all the same person. These are all different examples. If it's the same person, it's a wildly different story. But if that person is sick and you do something for them and you're like, screw it, everyone, I'm putting myself in harm's way for them. That's the kind of stuff that gets John Iadarola to tear up during movies. But this is my naked pursuit of power and self-interest is what's making me what's putting me in a position where I'm willing to get the virus that just did this to this guy. Not because of love of this person or love of country even, but love of power. And that's what's so demoralizing about all of it, as well as being revealing. And that's why scenes like this from his book are so compelling.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason why I cared about this one in particular, there have been a few things like that have came out that I didn't feel the need to comment on. It's just, I remember at the time when he got sick, it felt like, man, this is really, we're gonna roll the dice right now. We're gonna see. Is this what's gonna finally turn the tide and get Republicans to finally take it seriously? Will this mean that Trump now will have to take it seriously? And we'd had a couple things like that, like hitting 10,000 deaths, hitting 100,000 deaths. Like maybe this will be the thing. The dark lining will be that we'll finally take it seriously. And this for me was maybe the last one, maybe the vaccine, but this was the big one, and it didn't. He pretended that he wasn't scared, that he wasn't that sick, even though he knew that he was, and he was worried that he would die. And we had a great opportunity, and no, we wasted it.
And that's the arc. And maybe there will be some other arc coming the other way, but the arc is there's artifice around all this stuff. We have our Capitol building looks like ancient Greece. People in. You go into a room to get judged by a judge. The reason you take it seriously is the wood paneling in the robe and someone with a hammer. It's weird, it's artifice, but it's the kind of artifice that is so ridiculous when you expose it, but it's there to be like, yes, it is ridiculous, so that you take it seriously and different from everything else. It was just a bunch of people in a room, chain link fence around them. You wouldn't take the judgment seriously. And that's what's happened over time. People used to, at least out of decency and a respect for what these institutions, if not deliver, then promise to deliver, then folks would get to a certain point in power and say, actually, no, the decent thing to do is to say that Richard Nixon should leave office. And even Richard Nixon was like, yeah, it's a good idea. I can't win this one. But Trump has tested the limits of, I'm never gonna ever back down. It's a fundamentalist approach to scandal. And it benefited him until it didn't, because the one thing he couldn't use this fundamentalist approach on was a virus that didn't care that he had a lot of Twitter followers.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, we're gonna move on to the F, Sophie. I think we can fit in. We do have to just a couple minutes because we do have to get to garbage people, but I think we have time for this. So why don't we jump into that?
Just
I just felt an earthquake. Did you just hear that?
I'm hungry.
Okay. We've known for some time that facial recognition is both coming and it's going to be rough because it is not designed to treat everyone equally. And when you have a facial recognition system, which gets to decide, who the police go after, who gets allowed into things, If it's designed to help certain people and not really notice other people, that can be devastating. We have a really terrible example of that here. In Michigan, there's a roller skating rink, which uses facial recognition to scan people who want to come in. That by itself seems crazy to me that this technology would be needed at a roller skating rink. But what happened was a black teenager ended up being misidentified as someone else and banned from entry to it, even though she says she had never been in it before. This is Lamia Robinson. She had her face scanned at the Riverside Arena in Livonia, Michigan. Was mistaken for someone who had previously been involved in some sort of altercation there earlier this year. She took a photo of the scan, which we'll show you shortly. And then her mother posted that to Facebook saying, so I had the worst experience with the Riverside skating rink. They scanned my daughter's face and stated that she's banned per this picture below in the corner. That is not my child. To me, it's basically racial profiling. You're just saying every young black, brown girl with glasses fits the profile, and that's not right. And then she posted the picture, which you can see there. Lamia herself said, I was like, that is not me. Who is that? I was so confused because I've never been there. And look, the racial component of the facial recognition thing is not new. We know, I think John Oliver did it a couple of years ago. There have been some good members of the squad who've been trying to get legislation passed to stop this sort of thing. But the fact that it has filtered all the way down so that skating rinks are using it, that seems both needless and like it's likely going to produce more sort of casual everyday injustice just like this.
Do we not have a photo of the person who and I'm not saying we on the show, I just mean like, does Skateland not have a photo of the person they actually banned? Because they were able to use enough information to put someone's face in the computer. And did I'm saying Skateland because it's the one I grew up going to, where people got the crap beat out of them all the time. So I understand needing security, but like
Riverside Arena,
everybody has skates. In Michigan, not where I grew up, but there should be an extra step. Am I crazy to say we should? Okay, you got flagged by facial recognition. Let's compare the two of you to see if you're the same person, as opposed to you got to stay out. It's insane. The other thing is when Lamia, or I want to say Lamia, when her mom is saying, I don't want, this is not my daughter. It's the same. It might be some other girl with glasses. That's not the case either. It could be anybody. It could be any black person with any glasses or not, because that's how bad the facial recognition is. The facial recognition software is what you were referring to. There's a bunch of white people in Silicon Valley who are testing it on white people, and it learns when it gets more, just like people do. You get more exposure to more new ideas and new faces, you start to be able to tell the difference better. And it just isn't exposed to enough of those faces, so it lumps a lot of folks together. And so it's not even good enough to be able to tell if it's a boy or a girl wearing glasses or just like has thick eyebrows. Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's the people making it either through ignorance or just not particularly caring. Just don't set it up in a way that. And by the way, even if the racial angle, the fact that it's not equal in terms of its ability to differentiate people, even if that was cured, we could still have all sorts of problems about the casual deployment of facial recognition for seemingly everything from police all the way down to skating rinks. But we haven't even gotten to that point yet. And so, look, some people will look at this and say, well, it's not the cops arresting someone wrong or them snatching a protester off the street that they shouldn't have because of facial recognition, those are stories that we've seen. This is just a skating rink. But think about, for this young girl, how demeaning that must feel to be banned. How, like, wondering, wait, is my mom gonna like think that I was actually at a fight? Like, it's so needless. I don't know why a skating rink would need a system like this, but to deploy it before it's actually been tested in a way that you can have some sort of faith that it's not going to throw up false positives like this is just terrible. But with that, we are running rapidly out of time. So are we prepared to jump into our final segment? And Brett will go first.
In the meantime, we're gonna do garbage people. And I just wanna say that in the meantime, I'll go first. And The other thing that I want to mention is John put a lot of work into, and I'm waiting for your thumbs up, but like John put a lot of work into this this Subway tuna piece. So if you want to read it,
Sophie did.
Sophie did. So
we're gonna do it on Monday.
I don't care.
We're gonna do it on Monday. Don't worry.
I don't watch Monday's show.
Okay, no, you totally should. It's Francesca. It's fun. Anyway, okay, we're good.
Che would have stolen her house.
It's the end of the week, and so it's time to take out the trash. Oh, Brett, there's been so much garbage this week, so much garbage on the show already. Who have you kept in your pocket waiting to finally reveal to us?
I've kept this person in my pocket since I decided on them about 88 minutes ago. And it is the person who spent $28 million to go to space and is not going to space. So I saw this headline, "Too busy for space? Winner of $28 million Blue Origin ticket replaced by 18-year-old gap year student." And the quote from the article is, after paying an extraordinary $28 million at auction in June, the undisclosed winner of a ticket to join billionaire Jeff Bezos in space in less than a week will not be joining the world's richest man, citing, quote, scheduling conflicts. The flight to space, I just want to point out, is 11 minutes.
Oh my God, it's more than $1 million a minute.
This is not a Richard Branson. You get in a plane, the plane becomes a rocket ship. The rocket ship, like a plane, flies around for a minute. This is 11 minutes, front to back. You're weightless for 3. You're in a rocket ship and you come back to Earth in a parachute. You don't land. That is what they had going on. He's too busy. And what's hilarious is also the person that's replacing him is like an 18-year-old Dutch kid on a gap year, because you can just, an 18-year-old gap year student.
Well, so how did they find this student?
He was involved in the thing, and that's it. And I will say that this guy who spent $28 million will catch the next one, essentially.
Yeah, probably.
But this idea, it was $28 million plus $2 million for like the equivalent of like the DoorDash delivery fee. So it was $30 million in total.
Convenience fee.
To give you an idea of the levels of douchey baggery that this millionaire, gajillionaire who spent $28 million on it, inventor of the trucker hat courtesy of Ed Hardy, Ashton Kutcher, was able to get talked out of going. So Ashton Kutcher was set to fly to space. Mila Kunis talked him out of it. So if we're doing our hierarchy, Ashton Kutcher's so douchey that when I first did my first video online, someone compared me to him, saying Ashton Kutcher called he wants his 1997 image back. Like, I know what level of douche. I had longer hair, but I was like, ugh.
Oh my God.
Anyways, he was able to get talked out of it. That's my garbage person. And I think Ken Klippenstein was like this. The ridiculousness has become its own satire, that
you can't parody the income inequality, that like you'd be that busy. Yeah. And look, I don't know the person. Some people might say, hey, well, maybe this person has done charity or whatever. And that's fine. I don't want a system where you can have people that are so wealthy that they can just not have time for their $28 million like trip that's shorter than an episode of Frasier, and hope that it'll all even out morally because they choose to be charitable or whatever. How about we just not have that system in the first place?
I think the thing that I cherish most about this episode of the Damage Report is me now forever thinking that John thinks of things in terms of how many Frasier episodes there are.
I kind of do. It's a great show. Anyway,
how many seasons can I squeeze in?
Good garbage person, Brett. Okay, let's move on to mine. For my garbage person of the week, I would love to come up with someone fresh and give our can something it never tasted before, but I just can't do it. This isn't even a topic that I haven't talked about before, but I can't accept it. And I'm gonna be piggybacking on something Brett was talking about earlier. This comes from one of those write-ups of Tucker Carlson. And it's by Charlotte Alter in Time. It is more critical than most of them, although it still somewhat plays into the myth of well, maybe this guy is sometimes a rebel or whatever. Maybe he really has a problem with the ruling elites. I don't believe that at all. But that said, here is one part of it. This is not a general thing, this is about one specific thing. Near the end of our call, I asked Carlson if he'd been vaccinated against COVID-19. He paused. Because I'm a polite person, I'm not gonna ask you any super vulgar personal questions like that. I told him he was welcome to ask me whatever he wanted. That's like saying, do you have HIV? How about none of your business? He broke into a cackle like a hyena let loose in Brooks Brothers. I mean, are you serious? What's your favorite sexual position? When did you last engage in it? This has apparently become his go-to line when asked whether he's been vaccinated. Carlson offered the same retort to Ben Smith, the New York Times. And she ended, for someone who talks a lot about the right to ask questions, Carlson never did give me a straight answer. Because he knows what he's doing. And we know the answer. We don't need confirmation, but maybe it could save the lives of some conservative that unfortunately, regrettably, trusts him and believes in him. But he doesn't care about that person's life. He likes the mystery that allows him to continue to play both sides. I'm not saying don't get the vaccine. I'm just doing nonstop coverage of why you should be questioning it. And did he have it? Yes, he definitely had it, but he will never actually say that. And he will instead pepper this female reporter with like joke questions about sexual positions, pretending to be offended and triggered by her question when he is certainly not.
And recently, Tucker Carlson said, "Fark, I can't find it right now." He says, "Oh, come on, Gizmodo. They don't trust you anymore." So, okay, he said something the other day like, "I'm just asking questions. When people ask you questions and you dodge them and you don't answer them, it makes them trust you less." This is Tucker Carlson talking about the vaccine. So someone asked Tucker Carlson a question about the vaccine, something that he says is the thing you should be doing. I'm just asking questions.
And he dodged it.
And not only did he dodge it, he dodged it in a way that by Tucker's own logic should make people not trust him anymore.
And they should already not trust him. This is just more confirmation. Thank you for finding that. So that's my garbage person. But what did you all think? Well, 32,000 of you voted. And here are the top 5 for this week. Coming in at number 5 with 7% of the vote. Oh, can't even get to the top of this list. Lauren Boebert for trying and failing to troll AOC. Number 4 with 8% of the vote is Matt Gaetz for trying to make Free Britney all about him. I hated that. Tied for 2 and 3, we have Francis Suarez for suggesting the United States bomb Canada. That's the mayor of Miami with a terrible, terrible suggestion. And also there we have the Victoria's Secret Karen for harassing a black woman then throwing a tantrum. That was something. But number 1, your community garbage person of the week with 58% of the vote, Governor Greg Abbott for threatening to arrest Texas Democrats. Did I say Canada? No, it's Cuba. For threatening to arrest Texas Democrats and just standing for like, I'm willing to turn this into effectively a fascist state if that's what it takes for me to compete in the Republican primary coming up. Thank you everybody for choosing that one. One of the most substantive. Anyway, Brett, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back regularly coming in on Fridays. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And honestly, if John wants to bomb Canada, I don't. I think some kind of like
Canada.
Yeah, some kind of like zombie virus in Canada. I think it's just a more effective way. Some poison, some kind of like maple blight could be a way to do it.
Okay, well, I apologize, Canada. Don't leave us. Anyway, thank you, Brett, and thank you all for watching. Obviously, a lot of content coming up. We are unfortunately out of time, but Indisputable is going to start in just a couple of minutes, so don't go anywhere. And until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, you know what time it is. It is indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday and we have a packed show today. Listen, for my I Wish a Karen Would segment, ladies and gentlemen, I have located a serial Karen. We have a serial Karen alert happening in the United States of America. This is what happens when Karens are allowed to roam unrestricted. No repercussions for their actions. Also, your co-host today is me, riding solo on this one. I hope you can handle it. Guest later in the show, we got Joe Trippi, host of That Trippi Show. That's going to be quite interesting, very accomplished individual. And my debate guest will be Eric Gruner, conservative Christian blogger. We're going to talk about critical race theory and a whole bunch of other stuff. You don't want to miss that. I'm sure it will be quite interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, my top story for today. Here's the thing. We said this would happen. We said it was already happening. And now you have more evidence that it continues to happen. 16 white supremacist gang members have now been charged in a sweeping federal indictment out of Florida. Now, here's what's ironic about this story. We actually covered one of the gang members earlier this week right here on this program. Now, we were unaware that this person was a member of this murderous gang, but we did say that his 2-day sentence was quite light. Now, remember this individual who was sentenced, Curzio, who is a capital rioter, a terrorist, was sentenced to 6 months credit for time served, which meant he only received 2 additional days. Let me give you some background to this gang. A group who calls themselves Unforgiven requires its members to study Aryan philosophy. Aryan philosophy. They also require their members to carry out various acts of violent crimes against other people. Now, I want you to understand the insanity of this. They have to study Aryan philosophy to be members of this white supremacist gang. And they are the ones who are telling everyone else that critical race theory is destroying K through 12 education. Same people. 16 members of a Florida-based white supremacist group who went by the names such as Shrek, Pretty Boy, and Scumbag, sounds fitting to me, have been charged in a 12-count racketeering indictment accusing them of engaging in acts of murder, kidnapping, and other offenses. That's according to NBC News. And you heard right, ladies and gentlemen, that the indictment claims they were involved in murder and kidnap. It gets deeper. The indictment also claims Unforgiven used who? Corrupt law enforcement officers and state employees to gather information about people, investigations, and prosecutions, and to smuggle contraband to incarcerated inmates, including into the Columbia Correctional Institution in Lake City. Okay, there's a lot to unpack in that one proclamation from the United States government. But let me remind you, this 16-person indictment only includes the individuals who are members of the gang. That's according to the indictment. These individuals, these criminals, these thugs engaged not only in criminality, but they engaged in terrorism. That is what they engaged in. By definition, terrorism is the use of criminality, the use of violence, the use of criminal aggression in order to make a political point. But who did they use to make this political point? They used corrupt cops and state employees. Well, where in the hell are the corrupt cops? I don't see them listed on the indictment. Where are they at? The federal government has just told us through the indictment that corrupt police officers actually helped them get information on people, get information on investigations that were occurring, but I don't see them in the damn indictment. Where are they? And do you really believe that these law enforcement officials who are assisting this gang are disconnected from some type of systemic expression in the United States of America? No, they are part of it. They are a product of what's happening in the United States. That should be the most damning sentence in any federal indictment, that a white supremacist gang received assistance routinely from members of law enforcement and state government employees. Now here's the other question. Why aren't people on the right outraged by this? Why aren't they saying things like, we can't believe our taxpayer dollars are being spent on actual corrupt cops? These cops need to go. Why have they not said anything? Why are they not coming out being aggressively against these individuals, these criminals? Why are they not calling for the federal government to release the names of these police officers who are caught up in this corruption? You know why they're not calling for the release of their names? You know why they're not talking about the bad cops that the federal government has obviously said are present in this gang chaos? Because it doesn't fit their political narrative. That is the only reason why. So all of the jargon about they want to protect and serve, all of this mess about they support police officers. You're not supporting police officers if you're not willing to stand against the bad ones. You're not supporting the industry of policing if you're not willing to call out those that give the industry a bad name. There's more. The group required its members to study Aryan philosophy. Remember, I told you these are the same people against critical race theory, and carry out acts of extreme violence to gain entry into the gang, the indictment says. They were also required to get tattoos, which include swastikas, iron crosses, and SS bolts, pay dues, and attend regular meetings known as church, the court papers say. Regular meetings known as church, or church known as regular meetings. Which one is it? There's more. Jacksonville resident, and I've been trying to locate these individuals. I cannot find all 16, but Jacksonville resident William Walker, AKA the Duke, was charged with conspiracy. Ryan Howard, AKA Otto, was charged with assault and conspiracy. Levi Sharp, AKA Sketch, was accused of 1 count of assault and 1 count of kidnapping. Ryan McLaughlin, AKA Pretty Boy, was charged with conspiracy. Let's put up their pictures. That's who they are. Take a good look, ladies and gentlemen, at people that say they are part of the superior race. Individuals who would like to see death to those who do not look like them nor think like them. That's at least 4 of them. Another member of the group, his name is Michael Curzio. If that name sounds familiar to you, it is because we covered this individual earlier this week because a federal judge let him off on a light sentence. Another member of the group, Michael Curzio, pleaded guilty Monday to participating in the storming of the US Capitol on January 6th. He was sentenced to 6 months in prison, but was set to be released from jail this week after receiving credit for time served. Let's put his picture on the screen. That's him. Now, when I covered this story earlier in the week, I said, first of all, the prosecution only charged this guy with unlawful protest, even though it was clear that he had an extensive criminal record. He was in a white supremacist gang. These are all things that the federal government was aware of. And he was incarcerated in prison for attempted murder. He gets this light sentence, he gets this light charge, but he's connected to this terrible gang. Here's what I don't understand. I do not understand why These individuals are not being investigated as a broader network beyond the Capitol riots or beyond the terrorist attack. These folks are being investigated as individuals, not connected to anything else for the most part. These are cookie cut plea deals. Why are we handling it this way? There is no way a person who was involved in the January 6th riot, the terrorist attack on the Capitol grounds, should ever be charged with such a light sentence of unlawful protest. You know who else gets unlawful protest charges? Members of Black Lives Matter who decide to go in front of traffic. They get unlawful protest charges. So you mean to tell me that someone marching for the movement of Black lives and they happen to block traffic temporarily should get the same charge of unlawful protest as someone who raised the US damn Capitol? You mean to tell me that someone who marches without a permit, who does not have a parade license, who gets charged with unlawful protest, you mean to tell me that is the same crime as what these folks did at the US Capitol? It doesn't fit to me. There is something not right here. But you know what it is? You can see behind it. My job is to help highlight the nuances and the contradictions of this criminal justice system. It is sad. I hope at some point the federal government will release to us who are these corrupt law enforcement officials they are talking about in the indictment, and who are these state employees who assisted this murderous gang. Don't let up on that. Don't stop paying attention to that, because the development of the story is even more profound than the origin. We got more. Let me shift gears. Okay, this is really, really unbelievable, but believable. A witness captured on video the moment the NYPD used a stun gun on a Black man for getting on the subway. Okay? What you're about to see is quite extreme. I want to warn you, we do have video. It can get graphic. This was on a subway train. The rider allegedly got onto the train without paying, even though the man did actually pay the $2.75 fare, which was backed up by every single witness on that train. Here's the video. How sad is that? This man is lawfully on that train. The other riders on the train are screaming and yelling to these police officers. He paid his fare. He's telling them, I paid my fare. And did you see how many cops were on top of this guy? Now let's say for the sake of argument, he did not, which by the way, is not part of the factual story. But let's say a person did not pay their fare. $2.75. This is how you react to $2.75. That's the reaction. Under $3 damn gets that kind of reaction from the police. The way they were searching for him, as if he just committed a bank robbery. The way they decided to approach him, And then they tased this guy. The man in the video from this July 6th incident was identified by the New York City Police Department spokesman as David Crowell, 29 of Bronx. Crowell allegedly allowed a man into the 116th Street station in Manhattan by opening an emergency gate, according to the police. So that's the narrative, okay? Initially, they were saying it was him who actually was on there illegally. Now they're saying, no, he actually let somebody else on illegally. Well, where's that guy? Where is he at? Did you do that to him? Okay. A police body camera shows an agitated Crowell aboard a subway train while an officer is trying to speak to him from the station's platform. Crowell said multiple times, "I paid." He then swears at the officers on the platform, and see, that's what did it, because this was now retaliatory. At one point, Crowell says, "F the police. What do my back say?" He then lifts up his shirt and turns his back toward the officers, apparently showing a tattoo. Crowell also appears to threaten officers. "You bust that ish, I'm going to run, I promise you," he said. What is this really about? This is really about an individual who's exercising his freedom of speech. Let's be very clear. You have a constitutional right to be a jerk. You do. You have a constitutional right to be rude. You have a constitutional right, I dare say, to say F the police. You actually do. And remember, your constitutional right, your freedom of speech is protected from government intrusion. So literally, if you are being accosted by the police because of your protected speech, that is a 100% violation of the US Constitution. His speech is protected. He was arrested on charges that included resisting arrest, obstructing governmental administration, and disorderly conduct, police said. The man, Crowell, let into the station for free, did pay his fare when confronted by officers, police said. A department spokesman Thursday declined to name the officer seen on the bystander video using his stun gun against Crowell. Wow. Wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that the individual who they claim did not pay the fare was allowed to pay the fare when confronted by cops, not arrested, not violated, not tasered, nothing happened like that. But the man they claimed who just opened a door or allowed this person to come onto the platform. And by the way, I'm just saying this for the sake of argument. I don't believe none of them. I think what they did was just horrible against this one person. But you have to understand the irony here. The person who did pay the fare, he gets arrested, charged with crimes even worse than people that rioted and terrorized the US Capitol. That's what happens to him. But the individual they say who actually did not pay the fare received no penalty, no arrest, nothing. You see, if all things were even, a police officer would have gone to him and said, "Sir, you did not pay your fare. I'm going to give you an opportunity to pay your fare now." Because obviously that's what they extended to the other individual. If this was about paying fare, that's what would have been said. But that's not what it was about. This was about revenge. When this young man said F the police, and once again, you have a constitutional right to say that. When he said F the police, all of them ganged up on him. You know why? Because gangsters get upset when you disrespect their colors. That's why. And so all of these gangsters who are disguised as police officers engaged in group violence against this one man to retaliate against his very statements to them because they were offended. That's what this is about. Former New York mayoral candidate Wiley weighed in on this. Let's put up this tweet. This is not public safety. It is a lot of police officers escalating an incident that at most would have been a summons. More police officers in the subway does not expand public safety for everyone. Well, obviously not young black men. Obviously. Mayoral candidate Eric Adams, a former NYPD cop, has yet to publicly comment on the incident. I would not hold my breath on a comment, but wow, what a tragedy, right? What a tragedy. But it's rooted in revenge. Once again, you do have the constitutional right to say what you want to say. We got more on the other side. Stick and stay. It's indisputable.
Can you name the representative of your district?
The representative of my district, oof.
I have no idea.
I actually don't know who the representative of my district is.
Do you know what the corporate tax rate is?
I think it's pretty high. I should know this.
Like in between 20, 25%. I don't know.
How many amendments are in the US Constitution?
Oh no. This brings me back to grade school.
I should know this because I was a history major, but I do not remember.
I don't know that. I don't know.
I don't know.
I have no clue. Nope. I don't know the answer to that one.
You don't know? I didn't know. It's time to change that. We live in the best country in the world. We live in the most powerful country in the world. We love our American freedom, but only half of us take part in the political process. Only half of us vote. We don't fulfill our duties as US citizens to make this country a better place. It's time that we use our voices as a team, as a country, to become better. We will stand up. We will be empowered. We will stay educated and informed about politics every single day because it's our responsibility. And Politiscope just made it easy for you. So join me, join us, and let's be Americans.
How in the world are you going to get the right to vote if you don't already have the right to vote? That's impossible. Reason they tell you things are impossible is because they don't want you to try. It only took 7 years for that to get an amendment to get a right to vote.
Does this result in millions upon millions of Americans losing their coverage? And we've been waiting to find out, and now we know, yes, it will cut millions.
Public education was supposed to be the way to equalize everyone regardless of their socioeconomic status. But if you come from a family that's poor, how are you going to afford grade school for your kids?
This fight is about fairness and morality. It's about the American values.
You think that black people all across the country, in every city, were all lying when they said the police abuse us and the police kill us when they should? No, of course they weren't lying. Yes, it does happen. Yes, they do get targeted more.
Why are we going to put immigrants in prison for 5 years, which American taxpayers have to pay for, if we're so concerned with immigrants using up our so-called resources?
We're gonna do both. We're gonna fight Trump and we're gonna fight the establishment. It's not that hard. Yes, you can do both at the same time. Go tell them.
ShopTYT.com has new shirts like this one. And you're thinking, Cenk, what is that one? I can't see it other than the black. Yes, so I'll show it to you. If you can read this, you're not practicing social distancing. Yes! Now, you were practicing social distancing. This is over video. But overall, you get it. ShopTYT.com.
Welcome back to Indisputable. We got a lot of viewer comments, okay? I'm going to try to read as many as I possibly can. Don't forget, this is just so exciting for all of us at TYT. Don't forget, we have our Twitch pitch streamer debut. It continues. We got Galaxy Brain with Ben Carollo. That is today, right after this show. It's on Twitch. All right, so make sure you tune in. That is going to be hot, hot, hot. All right, thank you for the support. Make sure you follow us, social media, Twitter, Instagram, Indisputable TYT. Tag us, hashtag Indisputable TYT on social media so we can read your comment live on air. And make sure you're joining the Indisputable TYT YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe to that page. It's free, it's quick, it's easy. And we're live right there, Monday through Friday, same bad time, same bad place. We're at what, 138,000 subscribers? That's because of you. I say thank you for that. A lot of people jumping in the truth game, all right? Let's get to some of the comments. TYT member Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon says, thrilled that he's part of the team. He educates me daily. Well, Mickey, you're either talking about me or my co-host, but we thank you. Diana says, Dr. Double R takes no prisoners. Yay for a true progressive. And yay, back to you. Thank you for that. Next, TYT reporter says, public service announcement. Americans, please don't leave your Karens unsupervised. Thank you. Agreed. Bro 420, 2 justice systems, black and white. You know, to that point, you make a great point on that very simple statement. You know how people say Lady Justice is blind? And by extension, we say justice is blind. Well, your premise is incorrect. Lady Justice is not blind. Lady Justice has never been blind. Lady Justice is simply blindfolded. And Lady Justice at any time can peek from under the blindfold. So Justice or Lady Justice has never been blind. The blindfold was an illusion to make you think that justice was actually blind. It is contrary to the facts. Electic Miscellaneous says, apparently in 21st century America, a gang of racist terrorists who tried to overthrow the government and are accused of things like murder and kidnapping isn't quite as dangerous to society as someone using a counterfeit bill or selling loose cigarettes. Excellent point. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon again. He was agitated, question mark. At least 6 stormtroopers swarm over him, grab at him, and he was agitated? Gee, I wonder why. Cops trained to immediately escalate no matter the reason. Well, there was a reason here. What was the reason? Because he said F the police. This was retaliatory. This was designed to be targeted at him. YouTube super chat. Grumpy Cat says, the doctor is in the house. That I am. Freedom fighter. Hey, Doc Ritchie, what up, back to you. Kevin Spina says, Dr. Ritchie, I'm saddened as a white, admittedly privileged academic that society is rife with hypocrisy. So we can't learn about America's original sin, but we can learn about Nazi philosophy, FOH, yeah. Good point, and thank you for that. Betty White, the vibrator slayer. In all of my years of broadcasting, I promise you, I never thought I would ever say Betty White and vibrator in the same sentence, ever. Betty White, the vibrator slayer says, Klan sheets are yellow in the front, brown streaks in the back. Stephen Miles Cook, remember the truth is a lot like medicine. It doesn't always taste good, but it's always good for you. I like that. Tempest Purim says, he paid and he wasn't even doing anything wrong. That's right, he was not doing anything wrong, okay? Katrina Simpson, NYC cops are the worst. They used to pull us over and throw drop guns in our car and threaten to charge us. Beat my head against the car window. My friend was charged for a weapon, for a pocket knife. Katrina, I'm sorry that happened to you. Freedom fighter, sometimes I miss New York, but now I think I ain't never going back. Let's go to Twitch. Yaren Gate says, should dub the serial Karen Kraken. Okay, we can do that. Mama Misa, I think. Either he flipped or the judge has sympathies for his gang. Let's just hope that when they get sentenced, they don't get the same judge. Because the judge will say, like you said with Michael Curzio, oh my goodness, he's not bright enough to get real time. He's not smart enough, or whatever it is they say now. Patricia Swan, I've jumped a turnstile in New York and I did not have people with guns stop me. I've done it. Hell, I think everyone, if you live in a city like that, we've done it. Nobody with a gun came looking for me. Okay, and I did it obviously years ago, but I know what you mean. A420 Kitty Dragon says, it blows my mind that people get resisting arrest when they hadn't done anything to even be detained. WTF. Isn't that wild, right? I would be a little resistant if I'm getting arrested and I know I'm not supposed to. DPT 94. They are using his character to justify the crimes they committed. Same thing every time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
You know what we do? We highlight the Karens of the world because Karens are dangerous. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a serial Karen alert. Now this is very, very important. This serial Karen has been caught various times exhibiting her Karenicity. Let me just take you to the first video.
We got a Karen. We got a wild Karen here. Breaking ankle. Do you want me to leave or not? Do you want me to leave or not? You're blocking my way. We're gonna start with leave. All right. Yeah, we found a wild Karen right here. Oh, Karen in the wild.
This is amazing.
I know.
Man, their physical activity is important for their mental health. That's true.
There's a cop right there if you want to tell them.
You were going on a run, weren't you? You should continue running. Man, it's really not worth it. Like, I don't understand the power struggle that I'm witnessing here. This is nuts.
I know.
For many of us, this particular Karen made her debut as anti-Asian Karen. As you can see, she has continued to be the Karen that we all believed her to be. But there's more. Then earlier this year, there was another video of her trying and repeatedly failing again to stand in the way of people on skateboards. Here it is.
It's fun at this point. She's trying to hurt him. Look.
There's more. Here's the anti-Asian part of this particular Karen.
Have you never heard of a leash in the city? Really? Really? Okay, we'll wait for the police to clear it up.
Yeah, go call them. Karen, please, Karen, call them. Karen, get your phone now and call the police.
I'm just waiting for him to come by.
And which country should I go back to, Karen? Huh? Say it. Now you cat got your tongue?
Can I get my tongue?
Oh, yeah?
Really?
Yeah.
Edit it out. Go ahead, edit.
Edit what out?
Come on, puppy.
What about, no,
Hang on. That's incredible. I'm just passing by, and you're actually trying to instigate a dog to go into the middle of a highway? What kind of problem do you have, lady? Like, seriously, put it out there. Put it out there that you can walk around without your dog on a leash. You know what? Put it out there that you can insult someone of Asian descent, and then also try and instigate a dog to go in the middle of the street because you're on principle or whatever reason. They don't want to go down and fight the police at the station. It's right there. They're wasting tax dollars and police time. I mean, you don't put a leash in your country.
Oh yeah, which country is that? Bola, come here. Bola, come, Bola. Bola. Come here.
Great. You're lovely. Come on, Punky, come.
Karen, what happened, Karen? Karen, over here.
We're over here.
Over here, Karen. Over here. You just did.
Have them come over.
Have them come over here. Have them come over here, Karen. I'm right here. Have them come over here. Have them come over here. You're harassing them now.
You are going to make the police get out of the car.
You are.
Put it on all over the web, baby. Put it all over the web. Such wonderful people.
Karen, white entitlement was 2020.
Wonderful
All right.
Go, baby. Go.
Okay, so this Karen is anti-skateboarding. She's anti-Asian, and she's also anti-domestic animal because she tried to murder their pet while pretending to actually be concerned about their pet. She's not concerned about their pet. She's more concerned about trying to enforce rules on individuals that she has no authority over. And as soon as they do not do what she says, get in their place, jump when she says jump, she's willing to go to an extreme and try to kill their pet. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not it. Here's more.
Don't yell at me.
I will yell at you.
Walking.
Are you crazy? There's no dog on the grass.
Oh my gosh.
Keep filming. We can be here all day.
You're overreacting, Karen.
The dog is not on a leash. And you can't read English apparently. Let's go read.
Why? Because I'm Asian? Are you racist? Are you racist? Are you racist?
Oh, apparently you don't have to do anything that Americans have to do. Okay, so you can't read.
Why don't you go yell at other people that have dogs on the grass?
I can't understand a word you say. Not speaking English? Because apparently you don't know that you have to have a leash on your dog.
You heard the racism there. I can't understand a word you're saying. Obviously, you don't read English. This person speaks better English than she does. But once again, the Karenicity de-evolves individuals back to a racist core of who they are. Their character is exposed in these moments. Now, I know some of you may have issues about dogs and leashes, and I get that argument. But I want to remind you that in that city, crimes against Asian Americans have increased by 335%. And individuals like that contribute to that stat. It is sad, it is insane, and I would even argue it is criminal to continue to harass individuals in that city. So that last video was at Battery Park. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you, these are the videos that I have access to. I am sure there are countless times when she acted in a way that showed the Karen inside of her. All right, let me shift gears. Another lawmaker arrested. Representative Joyce Beatty arrested in a voting rights protest. She is chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, was arrested yesterday. The arrest occurred after she participated in a small protest alongside activists such as Tamika Mallory and others that marched on the Hart Senate office building. Why? Because they're standing up for voting rights. The individuals who are passing laws against it are not. In the congregation that gathered in the lobby of the building, protesters chanted, "In the filibuster and let the people vote." Yes, in the filibuster and let the people vote. So here's the great political debate happening right now. And it is such an unfortunate debate. There are people who are willing to protect the right of filibuster rather than your right to vote. Think about how insane that is. The filibuster is not a constitutional construct. The filibuster is not a constitutional mandate. The filibuster isn't even statutory, meaning it's not law. The filibuster is a Senate rule. It is a rule that governs their activities inside of the US Senate. That rule can be suspended temporarily, or the rule can be done away with. Well, the debate right now, and I don't care how they try to frame it, here's what the debate really is. Are you going to stand up for the right to filibuster more so than you stand up for American citizens to vote? That is the decision you have in front of you. Every single lawmaker in DC, they have that one decision right now. Are you standing up for the filibuster, or are you standing up for people's right to exercise their vote in this democracy? The protest effort, according to Representative Beatty, was to send senators a message and calling on them to pass the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We've talked about both of those acts extensively on Indisputable. The group spent about 20 minutes in the lobby before Capitol Police delivered several warnings to clear the area and then finally began detaining people. Do I have to say it? Do I have to say it? The Capitol Police, they lock her up. The Capitol Police, they arrest others. But the Capitol rioters, they got to go home. They were not detained. They were pleaded with. They tried to reason with them. They backed away from them. They said, don't do this, and gave them room. But the protesters, the lawmaker, you go to jail. You get these handcuffs. Any irony there? Beatty was the first to be arrested, followed by others. Let me go to the video. Okay, the Congresswoman said in a Twitter post, I stand in solidarity with Black women and allies across the country in defense of our constitutional right to vote. We have come too far and fought too hard to see everything systematically dismantled and restricted by those who wish to silence us. Be assured that this is just the beginning. This is our power, our message. Here's some details about that protest. Thursday's rally was part of an event called Speak Out, Call to Action Day on Capitol Hill, according to a release from Beatty's office ahead of the protest. According to the USCP, officers arrived at the scene of the protest in the Hart Senate office building at approximately 3:30 p.m. after reports of illegal demonstration activity. I mean, wait a minute. So at 3:30, you get this report. Well, at 3:30 you arrive, minutes after you get the report that this protest is happening. Let me do the math here. It took 4 to 6 hours for backup to respond to the terrorists at the Capitol, but it took you all minutes to respond to Black people protesting about voting rights. And the Black people who are protesting about voting rights were actually protesting peacefully about voting rights. But it took you minutes to respond to that and make arrests, but hours for backup to come to arrest white terrorists terrorizing the United States Capitol. Damn, the irony is staggering here. After officers arrived on the scene, they warned demonstrators 3 times to stop. Those who refused were arrested, the USCP said in a statement. The Capitol Police said the group was arrested for violating a DC law that prohibits crowding, obstructing, or whatever that is, incommodating. Okay, Did the terrorists get charged with that too? Because I haven't seen that on any of the charge dockets. I've seen unlawful protest and some obstruction, but all of these charges, I haven't seen them. Maybe I missed something. I don't know. Here's another video.
Representative Beatty, how do you explain to people what they saw on January 6th and what they're seeing tonight? You being arrested within minutes of entering that vast lobby where you were harming no one.
Well, thank you, Lawrence, for having me on. I think it's quite simple. What we see is the disparity of treatment. We see the disparities when it comes to Black Americans and majority Americans. As you said, we were there protesting, but the rules of engagement change, or the responses to the rules of engagement are different. We were warned that there was a warning and that after 3 warnings, we would be subject to being arrested. Well, as you saw, we were in our movement, in our moment. We felt like John Lewis and Martin Luther King, when they organized and protested, it made a difference. And that's why we were there. But it is a difference. We saw and witnessed. I was there on January the 6th, and we know what happened then and what didn't happen. Another reason we need to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. That's the only way we can make a change. When we get more people registered to vote without voter suppression, that's why we have the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
Well said. Stand by your constitutional rights. Ladies and gentlemen, another story. The DA in Massachusetts, Winthrop, is investigating a murder as a hate crime. Now, you may not have heard of this. You should have, but it has not made the rounds like it needs to. So we're going to help with that. Winthrop, Massachusetts has a situation now where a guy named Nathan Allen, who by the way was killed by a sergeant responding. Nathan Allen, a racist white supremacist, killed a retired state trooper and an Air Force official. A male and a female killed him. And it was in fact racially motivated. Nathan Allen crashed a plumbing truck he stole into a building, then got out and gunned down 2 Black people before being killed by police. Authorities have been investigating the shooting as a possible hate crime. Let me show you this guy. Put up a picture of Nathan Allen. That's him. That's him. White supremacist, killer. Look at him. Now let me give you some background on this guy. Police say Allen had no criminal record, and he passed a background check and had a license to carry the guns. He also earned a bachelor's degree in science from UMass Dartmouth in 2014, and he has a PhD. Here's why that point is important. Culture, education, exposure to diversity will not necessarily change the evil of racist people. Now, there are some who say, well, you know, if this person had more training or if this individual had more experiences, you're looking at a person who was cultured. You're looking at an individual who was well educated. He stole a truck to kill Black people. Now, there was some pushing back saying, oh, you don't know that he actually wanted to kill Black people. Well, we do now. We do now. It was suspected in the beginning because he walked past a lot of people who were not Black in order to kill 2 Black individuals, okay? All right. So let's dig deeper. This 28-year-old killer had writings that are racist, spewing hatred about Black people, and asserting that the white race is superior, as well as sexist, saying that women don't understand him. Much of it is unrepeatable, using slurs and advocating violence. Let me read to you what the district attorney said. The DA said, and I quote, "This man had fooled so many, outwardly appearing stable and upstanding while internally filled with extremist ideologies and hatred." There's a whole lot of people fooling people. You got some of these folks, Madam DA, working for your office, fooling you right now. Don't think he's a silo. Don't think he's by himself. All these damn degrees and holding that kind of extreme racism inside of his character, inside of his soul. They are there, believe it. Ramona Cooper, 60-year-old staff sergeant in the Air Force, who was still involved in the military, was shot 3 times in the back and died. Retired Massachusetts State Police Trooper Dave Green was shot 4 times in the head and 3 times in the torso and died. Here are their pictures. Okay, we don't have the picture right now. And we'll bring the picture in a moment. It's important that we bring that picture up. Both of these individuals are black. They're African American. They were killed by this white extremist. One is a retired cop, and the other was currently a member of the Air Force. She was still involved in the military. Here's my question. Where are the police unions on this matter? Where? Are they going to speak out against this extreme violence that was visited on one of their own? Highly doubt it. It doesn't fit the narrative. It says we have no tolerance for hate in this community. This is according to the police chief. We have no tolerance for hate in this community. It is an issue that myself and the district attorney have worked on in the past in this community. We'll continue to work on it as a community. That's according to the police chief. That police chief is a damn lie. You tolerate hate every time you decide to allow these white supremacists to protest and to commit acts of criminality, and you light on them. You allow that hatred to permeate when you do not call out leaders in your own party or connected to your community who support other leaders like Donald Trump who protect white supremacy. Just because it is in politics does not mean it should be off limits from your criticism. If you're not actively criticizing these elements of our societal construct as evil, if you're not doing that, I don't care if you're the police chief or the DA, you're lying when you say you don't tolerate it. You do tolerate it. And that's why people are aware you do tolerate it. All right. Okay, we'll put that the picture in our post. We weren't able to get it up. We had a technical issue. We weren't able to get up that photo. But when we post it on our YouTube channel today, we'll make sure we get both of those victims of this insane crime on the post, all right? We got more on the other side. Stick and stay is indisputable.
You know, old school's pitched to me from Jank. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben.
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, "Sir, would you like to rethink that?" What are you talking about?
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps fucking cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong. I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yuck. But what makes you stop right before 40? What makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot. What the you said you'd come on and you didn't come on.
I'm sure I took that very well.
Yeah, you did. You called me back the next day and said, I thought it was 7 a.m. There's now deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
Heard of it? I just had some in the car.
I'll tell you who I'm not f***ing, Ben Mankiewicz. Have you guys ever felt that?
Not ever.
And now it's just the three of us. This is the intimate hour.
By the way, the last half hour of this, we're not even rolling.
Fair enough.
Kingsley.
See, I watch movies.
I'm done with both of you.
Once Greg starts laughing, I can't stop. And I was just going to ask you about getting high, snoogans, snoochie boochies.
And members, of course, you can get the whole damn thing. TYT.com, join and free trial.
I'm old school with the old folks. Good
John, come back.
Electric cars are awesome, but they aren't the best tool for every job. You can't park them on the edge of the sidewalk while you run into the store for a few things. On top of that, an electric car is just financially out of reach for many people. That's where Zoom electric scooters come in. When I say electric scooter, I'm talking about small motorcycles with space in front of you to put your feet. The Zoom scooter has a range of 60 miles, offers a smooth ride up to 40 miles per hour, and can be charged from any electrical outlet. Start saving on gas while reducing your carbon footprint. To find out more, go to tyt.com/Zoom. Enter the code TYT50 to get an additional discount.
I'm Brett. I would like to refer to this segment as the Do I Still Have This Talent show. So I want to see if I can play harmonica without my hands. I don't know why I have that. Nothing's gonna be more impressive than that. I can also spin a basketball on my finger. While drinking. I'm gonna spin a basketball on my finger while drinking apple juice. You can do this, dude. It's also flat. I don't know if that helps or hurts. And it seems to be somewhat wobbly. Ta-da! Nope, I don't know how to do this one. This one's a fail. Nope. Oh God, I'm so mad.
Our community faces a never-before-seen public health and economic crisis. Businesses are calling Levin Papantonio with their legal questions regarding COVID-19. You've asked and we've answered. If you're a business owner and have suffered financial loss or closure from COVID-19 and have questions regarding your insurance policy, call us for a free consultation. Some policies may provide coverage for lost profits and earnings. Stay safe, and together we'll get through this.
Welcome back. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is still indisputable. We have a lot of viewer comments. I'm gonna read as much as I can, okay? Let's get to it. TYT member LMG15 says, this Karen is everywhere. It's like this is her job. Yeah, YouTube, super chat. David Morris says, what the actual F? She's the Karen equivalent of Bruce Wayne trying to eradicate crime from the city. And she's kind of like, yeah, I can see that. Kevin Spiner says, I would have pressed charges if she ever tried that dog trick on me. Yeah. Sophia Rodriguez says, welcome to tier 2. Oh yeah, welcome to tier 2. Bless you, thank you. Will Person, they used the filibuster for slavery. They sure did. They wanted to keep it intact, right? Twitch, Mama Misa says, the caucasity of the Karenicity is indisputable. I like how you did that. I like the wordplay. That was nice. Yaren Gate says, I hope businesses that she goes to denies the service and tells her to leave their establishment. At this point, when you are a serial Karen, it may be bad for business to have them in your establishment. Imagine what she will do in your restaurant, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest on the program. We have Joe Trippi, host of That Trippi Show podcast and senior advisor, Lincoln Project. We got Joe. Good day. Welcome to Indisputable.
Great to be with you.
Thank you for being here. Okay, you have a great plan here, brother. I like the plan. We want to make sure we have more coalition inside of the Democratic movement. We want to make sure that Congress doesn't fall away from the trend that was at least happening. But how do you do that? How do you strategize? How do you plan? How do you get it done? What are your thoughts?
The biggest thing is to get everybody out of this mindset of it's right versus left, it's Democrats versus Republicans, it's all of us in a broad coalition, everybody against an authoritarian movement. And we have to get the members of Congress to do that. Joe Manchin, the president, everybody, they all need to understand there's no one over there to talk to. They're hostages to an authoritarian movement. And so how we do it is to grow that movement. That's why I joined the Lincoln Project. Yes, there are a bunch of former Republicans. I'm a Democrat, but again, it's all of us, everybody across the board, doing what they can to build this message. I mean, that's the important thing. Everybody out there has the capability of talking to another friend, another neighbor, another coworker, and making them understand that the stakes are exactly that: our democracy, our right to vote, our freedoms at stake, being challenged and threatened by an authoritarian movement led by Trump and a lot of liars and cowards that enable him to do it.
Joe, let me say this. First of all, man, I'm digging the beard, brother. Good look on you.
Thank you.
Secondly, I like the position. I believe we have to start from a policy position. I'm a big policy guy. Sure. You all are doing that in a very similar fashion. But let me highlight something.
Sure.
There are some things that are now called political, and they're not political. They have simply been politicized. And just because something has been politicized does not mean it is inherently political. For example, democracy.
Right.
Democracy should not be really a political argument contextualized through the tribalism of partisan politics. It should literally be above a partisan conversation. But what you have seen happen, and I know you get this, Joe, you've worked with a lot of heavy hitters as a Democratic national strategist. You have seen how our political narrative has become more and more tribal in how we talk about common elements of this country that should really garner support from both sides.
Right, the sacred right to vote should not be anything but an American thing to all of us. But that's the point. So, when you see companies like Toyota, all these corporations that said, hey, we're not going to give to any of the people who voted to not certify the election. Well, now they're doing it again. Why? Because they still think it's two parties. No, you're either giving to help fund the authoritarian movement, or you're with the rest of us who are standing pro-democracy for the things that are not partisan, the things that should never be partisan: our rights, our freedoms, our Constitution, the rule of law, and the right of everybody to participate and have their voice heard. Not just in our institutions, but in our elections and in making the big decisions that we all have to make for a future.
Yeah, the way democracy is supposed to work, as you know, Joe, voters are supposed to pick the politicians, but the movement you see now, the politicians are trying to pick the voters. But we have had this for a very long time. It's not like it just came. They've been chipping away at this for a long time. Now it has, in my opinion, reached the ultimate conclusion of where they wanted it to go. So now they're openly telling Republicans that are part of the authoritarian movement inside of the party, run for political offices where you can be in charge of elections. We know it's not just about casting the vote, it's also about who counts the vote, right?
Absolutely. That's why all these voter suppression laws, that's why you look at the county level and state level where they're, the entire party apparatus. I mean, I'm talking from central committees up to, like you said, election officials, all being replaced, purging anybody of goodwill and putting in place, whether it's QAnon or other followers and supporters of this movement. And yes, it has swallowed up one of the two political parties, and that's the problem. We have to stop. The press has to stop doing this both sidism and covering it like there's just disagreements between Republicans and Democrats. No, if there were Republicans, there would be, we could cover it that way. They're not. This is, you cannot negotiate with autocracy. It's a zero-sum game. If the autocrats win, democracy dies. All of us lose our voices, our rights, and the press needs to cover it that. I think start to understand they need to cover it this way, because if autocracy wins, democracy dies. The very first thing that goes is freedom of the press. I mean, there's all kinds of other things that go, but this is a real time for every American, every company out there to step up, the press to step up and take sides, not partisan, not Republican versus Democrat, but all of us stepping up and defining what this is really about, our democracy threatened by an autocratic, authoritarian movement.
So Joe, tell me this, man, you're in this space. Obviously you have insight about what's really happening with moderates and others who may be scratching their head and saying, what the hell just happened in the United States? Is the movement that you're connected to with the Lincoln Project, is it picking up steam? Is it a stalemate? Are you losing support? What's happening with that movement?
Well, the movement's growing, but one of the things authoritarians do, and you saw this with Trump, what they do is they try to exhaust their opposition. They don't, it's so you get everybody to this point where, wow, we got through 2020. Oh man, I'll take a breath before 2022. We cannot do that. We've got to grow this coalition, make it strong, and do all the things that we have to do, register, vote, make sure people get out there and hold everybody's feet to the fire in Washington, corporate America. Everybody has to be forced to take sides. They're either with us or they're with that authoritarian movement. And hey, if there's a company over there that does that, if they want to keep giving to those folks, then we need to call them out and we need to start dealing with it. They're going to need to feel that that's not going to stand, not with any of us.
Yeah, at this point, Joe, if you're pro-Trump, you're anti-American, pure and simple. That's what it is. That's what it is at this point. My friend, tell people how they can check out your podcast and follow you on social media.
On social media, I'm at Joe Trippi on Twitter, and the podcast is That Trippi Show. You get it Apple, Spotify, or any place you get your favorite, any of your favorite podcasts, you'll find me there.
Joe, I appreciate you being on Indisputable, man. Thank you.
No, thanks, man. Keep it up.
Absolutely. All right, we got more on the other side. The Bullpen is next.
We are onto something that is going to be amazing, but what we need is your help.
The number one problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors, they serve large donors.
So these handful of gatekeepers try to dictate everything.
Like all of you already know, they don't work for you, they work for their donors. So fire them and hire people who will only work for you, that say no corporate backed money.
We are going to change the way we elect candidates in this country.
Uncorrupted Democrats. We're gonna fight for the issues and win on policy.
This is incredibly personal. We need free healthcare for everyone.
We're fighting for $15 minimum wage, single payer healthcare, debt-free college, and we are gonna get money out of politics once and for all.
I've taken a public pledge not to accept any corporate money.
Because the last thing we're gonna do is go into another presidential election and run a corporatist against a populist candidate.
At some point, the buck needs to stop, and it's gonna stop with us. It's gonna stop with Justice Democrats.
So who are we?
People who do not take corporate PAC money.
We're relying on small donors.
99.9% of our contributions came from people.
You're a Justice Democrat, so you don't take any corporate PAC money.
I'm not influenced by money.
As a Justice Democrat, I made that pledge.
Not a penny.
Absolutely not.
I will go to Congress unbossed and unbought.
We try to create a government which works for all of us.
That is what America's about, and that's what a representative democracy should be about.
We are just getting warmed up here.
Vote for uncorrupted Democrats. The fight starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you.
instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring.
Did you know that more than 20% of the world's oxygen comes from the Amazon? Why? Because of trees. I know what you're thinking. Of course! So what do we want to do? We want to plant more trees so we can save the climate. It's quite literal. So that's what leads to our new partner, Plant Your Change. Love it. It's so easy. What they do is you take the credit or debit cards you already have and you plug it into the system. And if you so choose, you get to round up every purchase to the nearest dollar and they plant a tree for you, okay? Now you could also choose if you wanna do it on only certain kinds of purchases or only so often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But literally every cent makes a difference here. It's Plant Your Change. And if you wanna know more information, just go to tyt.com/trees. Let's go save the planet together.
Now, top. No. No. No.
Today, a terrible day for the internet, a terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
Welcome back to Indisputable. We got a lot of comments. Let's get to it. TYT member Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon says, yes, we love your ads, Lincoln Project. But we know that you're not really on our side. You're pushing your own agenda and have been grifting your followers just like Trump does. I get it. They're not really on our side. That's 100%. But temporarily, politics can make strange bedfellows, okay? YouTube super chat. Marcus George Lamprey says, bipartisanship only ever happens to screw over average Americans, but now you need to beg people to save democracy and you still won't give them health care in the middle of a pandemic. Joker. It's a great point. David Williams, hashtag never Trumpers are still Reagan Republicans. No thanks, go take back your own party. Very interesting. Let me get one more in. The Skywalker says, imagine a new party. They become unbeatable. There wouldn't be no left or right. Justice has only one side. Eve, thank you, Eve, for that. And you're right, as I said earlier, just because something has become politicized does not mean it is actually political, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. We have in the bullpen Eric Grenor, who is a Christian conservative blogger. We're gonna chop it up about CRT, critical race theory, and maybe a few other items if we get to it. Eric, welcome to Indisputable.
Good afternoon, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I don't want to presume what you believe about CRT. So tell me, what do you think critical race theory is?
Well, it's an interesting subject because so many people talk about CRT in various ways. The media is probably the worst place to get that information. And I appreciate listening to you and watching you over the last couple of weeks. You seem to have a good background. You've explained it well. Some of the things that you've talked about, which I appreciate, is systems in our country. Systems that don't necessarily help the average American citizen. So one of the things I wanted to talk about when you said let's talk about CRT is some of the things that you mentioned. Maybe we can delve deeper into that.
Okay.
Because you talk about, and correct me if I'm wrong, because if I've listened to some of your broadcasts, that it should be taught, and it is taught typically on a higher level, maybe at the college level. I think some of the teachers at the high school, middle school level, they may not know exactly what they're doing when they talk about some of our history. But at that higher level, you talk about students, if they learn about our history and learn about the systems that are in place, they can go out into the world and they can help change it. So one of the things I want to ask you is, because you seem to be very knowledgeable about this particular subject, some of the systems you talked about, whether it was criminal justice, I'll add education. I think those are two systems in our nation that are broken.
Yeah.
What are some of your suggestions? Because it's great if we can get the young people out in the world, but I think they have to look to those that have already been in the world for some guidance. Maybe we can talk more about, let's come up with some solutions that can help our nation, not just try to define, do I know this? Do you know that? Where are we at? But I think we have a lot more in common.
Yeah.
So if we talk about the systems that you mentioned, maybe we can come up with some ideas that we can pass on and help fix things.
You know, I appreciate the question, and I'm going to get back to the original thought about defining CRT. It is important to define it, but let me give some remedy, some solution in this space. As you are well aware, because you are a former high school teacher, you know that critical race theory is not an actual discipline as far as a conclusive study. It is literally a question. Any theoretical framework provides a framework so that you can actually have an analysis of your ideas, right? That's how it works. That's
Absolutely.
how all theories in the framework operate. So, for example, when you look at how redlining has been done in the United States of America, or even gentrification, the displacement of Black and brown communities because of tax abatement and policies locally and federally. Well, those things adversely impact one particular group in a significant way, and it does not impact another group in a significant way. Those are policies that have to be examined, because in the critical race theory analysis, what you're looking at is the inequitable outcome. The outcome gives you evidence that something needs to be researched in the background in order to figure out where did the system or institution or the policy get it wrong. And remember, all of this jazz about critical race theory being taught to our kids is really a bunch of smoke, man. And it's completely adversarial to the discipline to actually teach critical race theory to children. And I think that's something you and I will agree on as well. So you have to look at the outcomes that is specific to the actual bias in the policy or the institution. Do you agree?
Well, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think one of the things that people that have a voice like yourself, definitely have the education in the background and have a following, has the opportunity to talk about the solutions. I mean, you've mentioned some of the things that certainly have caused a lot of people heartache over generations in our country. There's a lot of things that our country has done that has hurt a lot of people, whether it's people of a certain skin color, a certain ethnicity, a lot of things. What I think yourself and others that have the ability to reach the masses need to talk about the solutions, so we can have a conversation.
Talk about the solutions.
Well,
so
I know you mentioned redlining. Okay, so let's talk about that.
Let's define it. Hold on, wait a minute. Because I talk about solutions on a regular basis. One of the solutions is making sure that you have intentional efforts to make sure true diversity exists, and not just diversity of thought, but diversity of experience, exposure, environment, and culture. You must have this diversity in the boardroom. You must have this diversity among your ranks in policing. You must have this diversity inside of your state and federal government. You got to have diversity if you want to actually tackle some of the excessive and insane inequitable outcomes that you see throughout the country. But let's be clear about critical race theory, brother, because I don't want you to take away from that point. There is fundamentally an intentional design that says critical race theory is something that it is not. You know that critical race theory is not inherently racist, correct?
I don't think anything. Okay, I'll give you that in the sense of, and by itself, the idea. No, unfortunately, we have a lot of people. The way it's presented is presented in a way that comes across that way.
Let me tell you this, brother. I know people that teach critical race theory. I was taught critical race theory by Dr. Chika Akua. I've been teaching critical race theory for 5 or 6 years at the university before it became a great evil by the Republican Party. Everybody that I know who teaches critical race theory, everyone that I know who has learned critical race theory, they're not racist people, nor do they want to be racist individuals. And what has happened is that state governments have started to pass laws calling it anti-critical race theory laws, but the terminology critical race theory is not even in the context of the statute because they're not passing laws to ban critical race theory. And this is the thing, man, you know this as a former high school teacher. Have you ever taught critical race theory?
No, I have not.
Have you ever known one of your teaching colleagues to teach critical race theory?
Well, what I say is they have taught things from a perspective that I think
that's not critical race theory, brother.
And that's
I get what you're saying.
That's what I said in the very beginning.
That's not CRT. Okay, so why CRT?
We have teachers that are taking their own personal beliefs and biases.
But that's not critical race theory.
Absolutely not.
Listen to me, brother.
You need to help educate some of the teachers.
Well, I do it every day, man. I do it every day.
I understand.
But understand what I'm saying. Why demonize and make a villain out of critical race theory when you just admitted on my show the teachers aren't even teaching that?
But what they're teaching is what they believe it to be.
No. Listen, man, 99% of K through 12 educators are not even trained on critical race theory at all. That is not the problem, brother. This was not an issue until Donald Trump told y'all it should be an issue. The critical race theory concept.
Let me ask you a question, sir.
No, hold on. Let me say this. Let me say this and I get to your question. Okay. Eric, I'm gonna say this and get to your question.
All right.
Critical race theory has been around since 1958 informally, and then it was formalized in the 1970s. So you mean to tell me that a theoretical construct that has been around for that long only received this kind of national attention under the presidency of Donald Trump?
I think it happened prior to Donald Trump.
When?
CRT, there was a lot of racial tensions going on in our nation long before Donald Trump got into the office.
Right, but I'm talking about critical race theory, brother. When did critical race theory become a great evil of the Republican Party to start passing laws?
Let me give you an example, and I can say this personally. My son he just finished his freshman year in college, but when thank you. When he was in high school, there were certainly teachers that would bring into the classroom thoughts and ideas and comments that certainly were not what I would consider something a teacher should be bringing into the classroom.
Give us an example.
I'll give you one perfectly. Basically, he had a teacher that said that if you're to the students, if your parents are Republicans, then they're racist. And comments like that are not good.
I know that, man. Let me say this. That's probably true, by the way, but it doesn't belong in K through 12 education. So I give you that. A school teacher coming in and saying, hey, if your people are Republicans, they are racist. That doesn't belong in a curriculum or in a guided educational atmosphere in K through 12. So I give you that. But once again, brother, you're proving my point for me. That's not critical race theory. As a matter of fact, what you just described is adversarial to critical race theory because critical race theory says do not put any emphasis on individual racist people. Only emphasize systems, policies, structures, and institutions in order to understand unequal outcomes. So what you just described is actually the opposite of CRT. You get what I'm saying, brother?
Well, again, I came on this show because I appreciate the opportunity. And I know that you've talked about this multiple times. So what I was hoping to do is take what you've been saying and talk about some of the things that are solutions to what you consider to be systematic problems in our nation. Because that's the only way we're going to make things better. We can talk about there's a problem, there's a problem. Many of us agree.
It starts with education, Eric. It starts with education.
Let's talk about education. Yes. That'd be great. So we can talk about schools. We can talk about school choice. We can talk about teachers that probably are not trained like they should be. There's about 10%, in my opinion, of teachers that shouldn't be in the classroom. Most of them are wonderful people that really care about the children. There's about 10%, as there is in every profession, that probably should not be in the classroom.
Brother, that's a different argument than the argument of equity and equal outcomes in the United States of America. Every profession will have
so let's
a
talk
certain
about
percentage.
equity when it comes
But
to
listen,
education, because we need to come up with solutions.
And you're right, but listen to me. Every profession, you brought this up, I didn't bring this up. Every profession will have a percentage of people that are bad at their jobs. That's from policing to teaching, even people in your profession. You got a certain percentage of folks that are bad at their job. That still, damn it, that still does not explain why Republicans decided to make criminals out of school teachers who dared to teach actual true history. Go ahead with your next point.
So are you saying that there are teachers then in K through 12 that are teaching critical race theory?
They're teaching true history. True history is not critical race theory. Remember, critical race theory is a theoretical framework.
And that's what I thought you said.
But listen to me, brother. If you're not teaching it from a theoretical framework perspective, which is usually utilized in order to do heavy qualitative and quantitative research, if you're not using it for that purpose, it's not critical race theory. You have school teachers that are teaching the truth about the Constitution, saying that I was 3/5 of a man, and that's a problem. That the Declaration of Independence says that Native Americans are savages, that's a problem. Redlining happening from the 1930s and beyond, that's a problem. The fact that black folks couldn't get insurance coverage in the United States of America until after the 1960s, those are institutional norms, brother.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
So what's the problem with teaching that?
Well, shouldn't it be more, let's talk about how we can make things better?
Education first.
Okay, so
stop
how
telling
can we
teachers they
improve?
can't teach real history. That's how you start.
Pointing out the problem is one thing. How do we fix things in our society? You talked about education, you talked about redlining, you talked about equal equality in a company, making sure there's a diverse group. How do we do that? It's been tried, but really hasn't been successful. It's great to point out problems. How do we make things better?
You put a laser sharp emphasis on cultivating true diversity. You review the systemic biases and you implement new policies when you see that policies or institutions have outcomes that create significant disparities against disenfranchised individuals. You have to be thoughtful about the process. When you say we need to come up with a solution, but you want to bypass us having a thoughtful debate about what the problem is, you can never get to the space you want to get to. You're an educator. You know the first thing you have to do in any research study is to define the problem and then define your variables. If you don't define those two things first and accurately, you can never define the conclusion.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think that legislatures and laws can change people's hearts?
They never have, and they're not supposed to. Now, you say that as a point about what? What's your point about that?
Well, we can really define things and we can change laws all we want. But some of the things that aren't going to change are how people, whether it's people of white skin or black skin, Hispanic, how people view each other.
No, man, that's not what I'm trying to change. Let me tell you something, brother. My focus is not on the individual racist. Remember, critical race theory doesn't teach you to focus on the individual racist person. It teaches that the framework, or inside of the framework, that institutions and policies have to be analyzed, that laws have to be analyzed. You have to be critical in your thinking about how they impact particular groups over other groups.
So give me a law right now that we can look at and see what we can do to make it better.
So let's start with education.
Okay.
The loan game is out of control. Education costs too much damn money. Okay, period. Right. So let's say you have an African American male who gets a loan to go to college. They finish college, and now they have to pay this loan back, right? But they can't get a job. They can't get a job because the economic marketplace is antithetical to their actual economic marketplace reality. They're degreed, they got some experience, they've interned somewhere, but biases exist in the systems, and these systems stop this individual from receiving gainful employment. Now that is based on statistical data, that black men who are college educated have the hardest times getting jobs in that industry. And then when they finally do get a job, brother, they are typically paid less than their white counterpart, roughly 40 cents less on the dollar on average for doing the same job. So now they get a job later. Now they have accrued interest. When they get a job, they make less, even though they're similarly qualified and have the same degree background. And it's an ecosystem of inequitable outcomes because of that. That's something we could fix pretty quickly.
Okay, how?
You fix it with making sure colleges are free. The free college movement was birthed out of folks that were disenfranchised because of the college game.
Free for everybody.
For everybody, brother. Absolutely. I'm good with that.
Okay,
I'm good for a free, listen, I'm good for a free college option for everybody who would like to seek it. I still think high price universities will still do their thing because a lot of people like the name that's on their degree. And if they can afford it, they will go ahead and they will try to get to that college and pay that money. But there should be a free college option on the table. You disagree?
No, actually, I had a thought a couple of years ago.
But do you agree that a free college option should be on the table?
I think a free community college option would be a good start if the high school student is willing to give to the community while in high school, volunteer, kind of give to the community so the community can give back to them. Volunteer at a senior home, work with underprivileged students, do something for the community.
So brother, listen, man,
and earn it. Earn that.
I want you to come back. My producers are giving me the rap sign. We got another show starting right now, man. But I do want you to come back. I appreciate you coming on Indisputable, and we will bring you back ASAP, okay?
That sounds good. Have a blessed day.
Thank you. You have a blessed day as well. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, make sure to take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of this planet. And remember, the truth is always indisputable.